We are live. Hey, folks, what's going on? It's James and Jenny
Hello.
back in the house for another Sunday evening of reading by the campfire. For
Mhm.
those who are unaware, the uninitiated, we are reading Becoming Sister Wives. This is the book that was first released by the Sister Wives of Brown family, and they go through how they met, how they, engaged, how they courted each other, how they entered into the family, and currently we're on like the earlier years of the Sister Wives and seeing how they related to one another. Specifically on chapter 6, Janelle's version of sorority.
Mhm.
Um, I guess before we get started, let's just do the intro, and then we'll come right back to it. And then we're gonna, light the fires and kick the tires and get this bad boy ripping.
All
So
right, let's
we'll go
go.
through the intro, and we at it.
Yo, is my take on reality covering sister wives again?
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm back.
You could be with anyone, I could be with anyone, you're here with me. You're here with me, you could be around with me. You could be with anyone, I could be with anyone, you're here with me. You're here with
Let's
me.
get it.
All right, let's get it.
All
All right,
right. I sit
this
here
was
and I
actually
dance when you have that. I know you can't see me, but I'm like,
very good song. It's out by Bloom. Uh, it's actually a pretty good song. And then, of course, I have the closing credit, which is from Netflix, uh, which is also a good artist that are
Mm,
found on YouTube. So if you guys want to look them up, by all means, do that. I have them in
excellent.
the. I think I have them in the description. So if you want to check that out. Uh, See a couple folks here. Oh, before we get started, per usual, I want to make sure I give a huge shout out to the moderators, the folks that are holding us down, everybody in the chat who comes in,
Mm,
keeping it cordial, keeping it peaceful, and keeping it fun. Because at the end of the day, that's what YouTube is for. It's not for a whole lot
mhm,
of drama, not for arguments. Nobody wants to come to YouTube and get stressed out.
mhm.
So,
That's right.
so we're gonna keep it light, funny, and funky. Um, Again, this is actually for me. I'm kind of excited about going through this chapter and getting your thoughts on it. And I might
Mhm,
actually make a couple companion videos because a couple questions actually popped up to me as I was reading through the chapter this
mhm.
week. I'm trying to keep it as fresh as possible, just for everyone. I'm not sure how what your approach is. I know you were doing the book club before, but
Mhm,
I'm reading them as I'm doing the lives. So
mhm.
you guys are getting my first blush of the material as I'm going through it. And I got to tell you that a lot of this stuff is pretty interesting
Yeah.
from where I'm sitting. It's very eye opening. We had actually had a conversation about where the sister wives were, like even early on as they were doing these descriptions. What were your thoughts on it, Jenny?
I this whole chapter, I kind of just fell in love with Janelle a little more. It's interesting because most of the chapters, I dislike all the wives as I finish the chapters. But I don't know if I want to say dislike, but you see the other side of them. You know, you
Right,
see
right.
the deep, dark secrets, you see the conniving, the backstabbing. And although that's still in this chapter with Janelle,
Hmm.
somehow, maybe because I can picture her soft, sweet voice and her like attempt at yelling at Cody. That I mean, that was like her biggest fight she said she ever had was with Cody, and she still talked like this, like from seated on the couch when he was like going out the door, and she's like, don't you go out that door, like I can
Hmm.
just. So as I read this, I see that softer Janelle side as I go through it, and it just made me kind of fall in love with her even more because when she would be sassy, I'm like, yeah, Janelle, you go.
Right, right, right. And that's actually an interesting point because when Janelle was getting into it with Cody,
Mhm.
and they said that we've never, like you said, in the description to it, they said we never had a fight like this. And to be honest with you, and by fight, I mean argument,
Yeah.
right? Being very clear. We never had a fight like this. We never had an argument like this. And she said it was terrible. I'm like, that was terrible. That was terrible. Are you kidding me?
That ended her marriage, basically.
Right, right. Because she was like, F you when he walked out the door. We'll come back and talk. You gonna talk to me. No, no, I won't. Well, F you then. Like, and that was it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you said, that was not that wasn't a blowout. Like I've seen way worse arguments.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hell, I've seen way worse arguments in a line of Taco Bell. Like so,
That's the truth.
like, so,
That's
but
the
you're
truth.
right. There is something like even as the chapter starts off, I think we could jump right into it if you don't
All
mind.
right, let's go.
But even as the chapter starts, because I'm really excited about this, because like I said, I got a ton of notes. I wrote these out. The first sentence was, "I was enchanted with the idea of polygamy when I married Cody." And she goes on to say, "I imagine that my new sister wife, Meri, would immediately become my best friend." Joke's on you, Jack. But it's like the ideal nature of how she went in. Like she went in with these frost-colored glasses, and it was going rose-colored glasses, and it was going to be the most amazing experience because everybody was kind of on board,
Yeah.
and to be hit with that reality right
Yeah.
off, I thought was kind of crazy.
Yeah, yeah. I wrote in the margins too. I guess all four of them were naive. Because then they all
Right.
enter it thinking this is gonna be great.
Right.
It
This
seems
is
like
gonna be
Janelle,
amazing.
I thought she would be the most level-headed, logical about it, but she went in just like them. Like she really that surprised me at that opening of the chapter that way because I
Right.
thought, wow, okay, yeah, they were all young and naive.
Right. It showed a lot of the foibles of the positions that they had, and I think that there is a point that I wanted to make about that specifically because, like you said, I think we were kind of conditioned by we. I mean me because I can't speak for anybody else. But I think I was so conditioned to think of like Janelle kind of as like I've equated a lot of these reality shows just to give a little background. I've equated a lot of these reality shows to the boy band experience.
Mhm.
When you have a boy band experience, typically what that is they a management group will find typically four or five solo artists, put them together in a group, and they try to meet the expectations or desires of each subcategory for each one of the guys who's in the group. And they do this with the girl groups too, but specifically, you'll have the bad boy, you'll have the innocent guy, you'll have the cute guy, like the very attractive guy, then you have the shy guy, and then you have like an alternative character, another character that they'll put in. And each one of these specific boy band members will appeal to a different strata of their audience base. And I kind of felt like they did that with the Sister Wives, where you had Meri, who was the cornerstone rule keeper, the one who was going to be there because she was like the first wife, the enforcement rules and justice one. You had Christine, who was the fun, flirtatious, life is everything one. And then, of course, you have Robin, who's supposed to be the new young, the young gun coming into the new relationship. But Janelle was always held out to be the logical one, like the smart one who's only going to, it does not make compute because it doesn't make logical sense. And I don't have emotions because emotions are bad and I only approach things logically. And what this chapter revealed, even in the first couple, like I said, in the first sentence, really, but in the first paragraph, is that Janelle is in fact very emotional, and that was kind of a new thing for me. What did you think about it?
Yeah, I started wondering if maybe she took a huge leap in growth, mature wise, at the point that she actually separated from then and then went to college, went after that accounting degree. It felt to me like that's when I started seeing the Janelle we know now. Like the Janelle at the beginning of this chapter is foreign to me.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's something that Danny Towns wrote. Maybe this is more of their propaganda because Janelle lost her family over this, and she was around Cody and Meri beforehand, and they weren't besties. Why would she think being married, sharing him, I guess, would make them best friends? It's a good point.
Could be, yeah.
Um, I think that there is a level of propaganda, and I think that there, in fairness to Danny, I think there might also be a level of self delusion because it does cost. Like the more something costs you, the more invested you are into making that thing work, and that's actually one of the means and methods that are used to keep people in bad relationships where they aren't necessarily in the most ideal relationship or even a good relationship. It's usually time investment. The longer you're with somebody, well, I gave that person. We've been together for 10 years, so I can't turn my back on that time. We've been together for 15, 20 years, so I don't want to end the relationship. I don't want to get divorced. I got to give it one more chance because we've been together for so long. Time investment is an easy way to look at some of the investment that you use and some of the prohibitive ways to keep you from leaving that relationship.
Yeah.
I think that when you lose your family, when it costs you family and friends for you to be in this relationship, and it costs you so much for you to go back and say to those same family and friends, hey, yeah, it didn't work.
Yeah.
It's not attractive to you. And it may cause you to say, you know what, we're going to stick this out. We're going to keep trying. But I do think that there's, as always, I agree with Danny that I think that there is a level of propaganda that goes into this entire book. Like I'm not confused at all that this entire book is propaganda to try to make it.
It could also be that she wasn't in a pact with her mom, but maybe she felt like she also needed to have her mom's back a little bit because really the two of them went together and the whole family disowned them. So all she had left was mom, and mom had been there for her during this difficult time as mom was dealing with some of the same things herself, but she was there to mentor and help her and get her through. So I feel like Janelle, also on top of just like the shame of saying, okay, it didn't work and going back and going with her tail between her legs back to the family and saying, you're right. Cause they've all been saying, you're crazy. You shouldn't do this. This isn't right. I feel like she would be abandoning mom by going back.
Well, I'll take that and I'll raise you.
All right.
I think that plus one it. I think that there's also a point where you look at it, and not only would she be abandoning her mom, but she pulled her mom into it. So it's almost like you made a suggestion to your parents about this great stock, and you say, "Look, this is a great investment. You should take your life savings and put it in there with mine, and we're gonna all be rich." Yeah. And then when they do it, if you abandon it, then you're basically saying, "Yeah, I screwed you." So you want to ride it out with them as long as you can. So I think that might be another, layer to it. Like you don't want to abandon her, but not abandon her, you also pulled her into it. So you can't leave early.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, she was stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Right. This is a bad place to be.
I feel like there's never any addressing the fact that she divorced Meri's brother. And we see Meri's brother all the way at the end. I mean, he was the one that helped her move not to the end, but he's the one that helped her move to Parowan in that episode. So I'm like, oh, that's Meri's brother, who sadly has passed since then. But I would love to know, I'd love to know what went down and why he left after 6 months. And is that propaganda or is it true? Did he leave you, Janelle, or did you do something or say something, or did you want to leave, but you had the platform in the book to say what you want? I don't know. I'm trusting Janelle at her words that he left after 6 months' time. That's such a short period of time. So my question is why? I mean, she does kind of mention, he wasn't mature enough and whatever, but I'm like, well, neither was Cody. So, I mean, like how immature was this man? Because Cody was sort of a mess. So going into this with the idea and the notion that she has here at the beginning, that she had this enchanted idea of how wonderful it was going to be, there had to have been that friction between the two of them because of that past divorce with Mary's brother. But neither one of them has ever said boo about it in writing or on TV about that relationship. And I don't know why. Maybe TLC put a muzzle on them and said, maybe it won't look good going down the road, so let's not draw any attention to it. Neither of you are to talk about it, and it could be right in their contract. And it would not surprise me if it were that TLC decided, like, these are things that are off topic, you're never allowed to talk about, because we feel like people will start to, it could make our show get canceled because they can read into it now. Like, there's no talk about Christine's grandfather, really. Her father there is, but not really the grandfather who started it all. So I feel like there's a whole story there that we don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Because still, I think that there's there could also be the added pressure of kind of where McKelty is. Like, even though she has a story, according to McKelty, this is allegations from McKelty, that she has a story about Meri that could bring the Sister Wives franchise to its knees if she ever told the story.
Mm-hmm.
There is a point where you might not say anything or hold back, because if you do reveal too much, you could be messing up their money. And so he wouldn't just be, now, obviously in the realm of, a guy messing up his ex-wife's bag, par for the course. But he would also be messing his sister up and, his niece, or at the time, I guess, he'd be messing up her child too. So he might hold off. No offense on the thing, but
the number of books that might just come out when this is over.
Yeah. Well, because everybody, I think there will be a kind of a mad dash.
Yeah.
For the authors, like people trying to get those book deals locked in, because there's going to be people on the inside. Like, I think the one guy who appears on the show, I forget his name. He's Mary's brother-in-law.
Oh,
he's Cody's friend. They were driving in the truck together.
The wonky guy. Nathan. Yeah, I think that's his name.
Yeah, I think his name is Nathan. I think he's going to come out with a book and try to hit the book tour, because he tries to get too philosophical when he's having discussions with Cody about what his thoughts on polygamy are. So I think he might use that as an opportunity. And I'm not mad at it. If you ever watch this and you think about coming out with a book, you should. Everybody should cash in. You know what I mean? It is. I would say,
though, that's probably the one book I would never read, just because anything he spouts out, I just roll my eyes at.
Right.
It's like he and Cody together are ridiculous when they have conversations, and I just want to scream and pull my hair out. They're philosophical viewpoints, which sometimes will even contradict themselves. Like, sometimes they just like to spew out words. It's like a competition of who seems smarter when they're talking to each other.
Right. Oh, well, I think that there's a confusion of, because that actually is one of the things that I was going to point out during Seeking Sister Wives. There's a character on that show who is dating a couple, the Davis's couple, for those who watch the show. A young lady named Jasmine, and she tries to do the whole deep thing, and it's one guy, Nick, who's dating her. He tries to do we're gonna have deep conversations, and I think at some point people confuse intelligence and substance with you talking softly, and all of a sudden, because if you ever listen to them, they always go, "We're going to start talking philosophically," and then all of a sudden, everybody kind of picks up notes of an English accent. Because I believe that all of a sudden, you know what I mean, the flowers, the deepest of blues and the whitest of whites. All of a sudden, you think you're listening Hamlet, but it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
They confuse that actual substance. If you say something that's profound, people will say, "Wow, I never thought of it." Whoa, okay. Yeah. Then it's profound. But if you're just talking funny, it's just you talking funny. Yeah. You're using a lot of very pithy terms, and because you said, when Nathan is in the car with Cody, as a wife, you get to choose, but so you have freedom. So even though I'm oppressing you and put you in an oppressive institution, and I'm taking you for control, and I'm controlling all your movements, and I'm oppressing you financially,
Mhm.
sometimes physically, maybe sexually, etc., etc., etc.
Mhm.
You still have all the power.
That's
Holler at
right.
your boy. Like, what are you talking about? You can't
Insane.
be up is down and sideways is left. What?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They both have a way. I don't know him well enough. He hasn't been on the show enough. He just annoys me when he tries to sound philosophical, just as Cody does too. But I just wonder if he's also kind of on that narcissistic pendulum
Yeah.
somewhere in there where the two of them just really have a great time going at it and trying to outdo the other one.
Right, right. Well, it's weird too because you have a point where, like, I get it. I take positions on on polygamy, and I'm not a polygamist. You
Yeah.
know, clearly, or
Mhm.
not clearly, but I'm not a polygamist. Uh, you can't look at somebody and tell. But
True.
with Nathan and Cody, you're both failed polygamists, and yet you're
Mhm.
still sitting there trying to act as though you're authorities on how polygamy should work, and
Mhm.
that's weird to me.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't pull it off, but you're sitting there spouting the positives of it. Like I think actually Teresa Skinner had. I don't know if I put that up. I had it clicked to put up. Teresa Skinner had said something to that effect that it's polygamy only gives the women the most positive aspects of the marriage role of the wife. And
Mm.
I'll probably be talking about it this Tuesday coming up. Something
Mm.
very similar because I'll talk about like a little bit of the trad wife role play, the trad wife movement, not necessarily traditional wives in the roles that they play, but the trad wife movement on TikTok. And then I want to roll that into the same coin, same side of same coin, which is the manosphere element that
Mm.
Cody was a part of and influenced
Mm.
by. And then,
Mhm.
of course, the modern women, uh, what they call modern women, women who actually are able to take care of themselves in relationships and, God forbid, have their own sense of protection as they're in these relationships so that they can be dominated and controlled. And
Mhm.
how that's been, they're being demonized for that. So that'll be on Tuesday live. Those shameless promotions.
Shameless promotion.
Um,
Put it out there. It's not
right,
shameless. Just go promote.
right. Do it. If it works, it's not shameless. Nobody shows up that is like, oh, for shame, James, for shame. See, am I being deep now? For shame. Is that deep? Um, yeah, so I think that there's that aspect where you talk about um, the positives and the roles that women should play in these situations, and I think that that's where we find a lot of that
Mhm.
in this particular chapter because it does talk about some roles and some aspects of the roles, and it comes into conflict with some of the ideas presented by Cody and even Nathan as they were sitting around doing their drive-through and philosophizing about the aspects of polygamy.
Yeah.
Um, Let me see.
Zach, open
Oh,
the door away so the wind doesn't blow it again. Thanks. I had to get the door open because the wind blew the door shut, and the cats are both sitting by it now.
yeah, right. That's for those who don't know. If you have cats and if they have not been clawed, reduced, or whatever you call it,
Mhm.
declawed, they will rip your rugs to pieces if
Mhm.
the door is closed.
Oh yeah.
And they don't want to be there anymore. They will rip your
They
rugs to
will. Yeah,
pieces.
yeah, yeah. They will try to dig down to China to get underneath the door. Yeah.
Right,
There's
right. And
there's
they
no
just
rug
crawl under the
left.
door.
Yeah. Yes.
What are you doing?
I know.
uh,
As you
let's see.
mentioned that too, it made me think about the Mormonism Live interview. I laughed out loud when I heard it. And they were asking Cody if he believed in polygamy at all anymore, the two gentlemen who were
Mhm.
interviewing him. And he's like, well, yeah, I I know at least five, which is hysterical that there's five, like this is a man who is the poster child and the face of polygamy now on this television show that goes around the world. I know five families who have it right and who are doing it correctly. And then he goes on to start talking about Nathan, and he said, and I got this great advice from the one, and he starts talking about being lonely and how the women get to choose you and all that stuff. But as he's describing it, and he goes, and they said this is a man in polygamy. He goes, yeah. He goes, he had 2 wives. He'd still be in polygamy if one didn't leave.
Right.
So I was like, well, you just nullified everything you just said. But thanks for sharing and confirming what we all knew. This isn't going to work.
I'd still be doing it. I'd
That's
still be
right.
a pilot if I could still have my license. Like, yeah, that's
Exactly. I'd be a doctor if I ever made it through med school. I just didn't make it through med school.
right. I'd be walking on the moon if they put me on the shuttle. But yeah, there was a part in the chapter that I was reading, like in the next few sentences, that gives a little background on Janelle that I thought was very interesting, where it talks about the effects of polygamy on Janelle, and she's moving in with Meri and Cody. This is the second chapter on the second paragraph on the first page. Okay. It says, immediately after moving in with Meri and Cody, I began to lose my sense of self. While I never once doubted that I made the right decision or made the right decisions in choosing both Cody and the new faith, I struggled to find my way in my new life and lifestyle. And then she goes on to say, which I thought was very interesting, when I was young, I lacked self-esteem, struggled with body image, and didn't excel in any particular area in school. And again, that kind of floats I think that kind of supports the idea that you had or presented earlier about her changing a little bit once she achieved that education. Like all of a sudden she becomes a different person. She becomes empowered once she gets her degree. I think that could be supported in there with, you weren't doing well initially in school when you were young. Then when you get older, after a little time, a little separation, all of a sudden you find your power, your voice after you go to school and you become the Janelle that we're more familiar with. Yeah. But I do see a point where we talk about like the lack of self-esteem and her losing her sense of self. And that's always been one of my concerns as we talked about or broached the subject of polygamy, that by trying to serve the masses or the groups, that you would lose your own personal identity within that group, that you have to give up so much of yourself in order for you to make your relationships within the group actually work. Like if you have to give up a part of yourself so that other people feel comfortable around you, then those people don't like you. They only like a portion or a fraction of you or what you represent, but they don't really care for you. And I think that that's part of the thing. Like when you have to sacrifice yourself in order to be part of that bigger group, that's not a good thing. If you have to reduce your light because it's too bright for somebody, your shine is too bright, then that's a bad situation. Like they have to step their game up to meet you, not you step your game down to make them feel comfortable about where they are.
And I wonder too if that boost in self-esteem that she acquired after getting that degree is because she always knew she was smart. Because I do believe she was a smart person. She said she didn't excel in any particular area. So she was probably just a, middle of the road student across the board, but kind of knew she had it together. Like from my understanding, her kids are really smart. And like all of them. And those genes didn't come from Cody. So I feel like she may have at this time knew she was capable of more than maybe what she accomplished in high school for whatever reason. I'd love to sit down for 15 minutes and just ask her questions just about this particular topic. And that's why I feel like that acceleration happened, because I feel like she was able to live up to where she knew her potential always was. And that was proof of it by her going and getting that degree. Although, we can talk about the job at some point too. I'm sure that comes up here later on, but I'm curious about her jobs that she had even before she got that accounting degree. I'm starting to think maybe she was in the CIA. I don't know. I'm like, I want to know more about this government job. Somebody made a comment about it too once. Who was it? Oh, I think it was McKelty on a Patreon, kind of said an underhanded thing about somebody asked about the jobs of the wives and all that. And she skirted over the fact that she couldn't talk about Janelle's job with the government because it was not, it was under wraps what she did or what, what was involved there. And so now I'm convinced that she was an undercover CIA agent. And then they found out about the show, and that was the end of that.
She was working with the FBI, infiltrating.
Yeah, right. She's taking down polygamy from the inside out.
Right, but I think that there's because even with regard to her careers, later in that same paragraph, there's a point that I thought was very interesting as well, where it says Janelle talks about like what her spine is, like what drives her, and she said, "I knew that in addition to having children, having a career would be one of the things that would matter most to me and bring me a sense of security and happiness." And when I read that, it struck me that that sounded consistent with the character that I knew from the show. That Janelle would look at focusing on the security aspects and like the importance of work, the value of work.
Yeah.
But it also on the other side of it, when we talk about security, Janelle is the only person or the only adult in this scenario that didn't have the security of the financial security for herself as the family started to break apart. Because Cody and Robin both had that big house plus property.
Mm-hmm.
Christine had her house, which she sold, and then she bought another house and she got married and she got more property.
Mm-hmm.
Meri has Lizzie's end, and she has her own properties. So each one of the adults were able to have a sense of security. But when we look at the notion of it, Janelle has always been a worker. She's always been providing financially. And it's ironic that she was so worried about the security of it. And that was an important thing. And I'm not doubting that wasn't important to her. But I think that part of what happened, and I've always said this about Janelle, she reminds me of somebody who follows rules. She's a rule follower.
Mm-hmm.
And once the rules were established, this is how you run polygamous families. The family gives to each other. The family is there for one another financially. When you make $1, if there's 4 of you, each of you get a quarter, right? And we split things evenly. And she followed the rules. And by her following the rules, she wound up getting screwed over. Like the rules actually screwed her. Like at least that's the impression that I had. But I always thought that was kind of interesting, the word security, because it's an interesting word to use, especially knowing what we know now. But what were you have any thoughts on that?
Janelle also is the one that bought into the principle the most. So she didn't have that forethought because she always thought no matter what, come thick, come thin, high water, low water, whatever, come what may, we're in this together. And because of that, this one needs money, fine. This one needs money, fine. This one, it will all come back to me eventually. When I need mine, I'll get mine. And she just didn't. And I think everyone else started thinking down the road, and she just never did. She always believed she would be there until the very end. I think Robin was thinking it years ago and getting herself set up in the event. Right. And she said it on the picnic table. Well, we don't know if Cody's going to divorce me. I need to have 4 acres of land myself.
Right.
Plus half of everything else.
Yeah, right. Well, I think that she's being a divorcee who walked out of a relationship and struggled financially. She learned early that you want to get as much as you can out of the relationships to ensure yourself and insulate yourself from any type of poverty. Gwyneth Brim, I'm randomly putting up different phrases so people can see things because I don't have to scream anymore. But Gwyneth Brim, but as a lawyer, I think Janelle may have the strongest legal claim against Kidney and Robin.
I hope so.
And you know what? I think that, in fairness, as long as she's been keeping them books, and because she's the person who was doing the accounting work, and
Mm-hmm.
as long as she has a copy of those financials, I think that Gwyneth, you might be onto something.
Mm-hmm.
Not an attorney, but I'll defer to your expertise. But I think you may be onto something. As a person who has used attorneys before, that's would be
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I would look at and say, you know what?
Mm-hmm.
If you had the books, you got the cookbook, then we can go down there. We cook these foods. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
have the
Oh, I
house, you
would
got the
love it. She, the realization came to her as she was crying on camera saying, I got myself in this terrible situation. I don't know. It's like finally her eyes opened up to it all. I
right,
pray that in that moment, because it was obviously a year before that ever got aired, that in that moment, she did take the time to make photocopies of everything. And I hope her
Mhm.
kids, her kids were upset with the whole situation anyway. So I pray that they were putting that in her ear as well. And that, yeah, she has herself covered so that even just to threaten, even if it doesn't go to, she can just say, I have copies. This isn't going to go well for you. I'm going to win in the
Right,
end. So you want to waste that much money going to court, or you just want to hand over to me what is mine?
right. And the easiest, like, and it's the craziest thing, and I would even say, Gwyneth Brim, you can chime in on this if you like. In fact, if you want, hit me up on my take on reality questions at gmail.com. Uh, if you want to come up, I'll bring you up, put you on a panel or whatever. You can have the deeper discussion. But one of the things that strikes me is that the easiest way for Robin and Cody to get out of this, especially you are with, like, look, you folks are winning. If they let you keep that house that you're
Mhm.
sitting in, it's now worth $2 million. You are winning.
Mhm.
Give Janelle Coyote Pass and cut your losses,
Yeah.
so that way they're not coming after anything, because a lot of that money is very mixed up. Like a lot of that
Mhm.
money is you took money from this one and that one, and I'm sure
Yeah.
there's falsification of documents, all kinds of things for you to get that
Mhm.
loan, because there's no way in the world you say it. Because just from my experience, in order for you to acquire a loan, for those who may not be in the know, in order for you to acquire a home loan, if your parents, friends, or family gives you money for a down payment, it has to be in the form of a gift. It can't be in the form of a loan. It can't be in the form of you having ties to somebody else with concern to that property. That
Mhm.
property, as far as the bank or any lender is concerned, has to be free and clear for the lender to be able to be in the first position. So
Mhm.
that if anything happens with you not being able to pay your mortgage, or there has to be a foreclosure of some sort, that lender is in the first position and they get their money first.
Mhm.
And they're able to take advantage of it. There's no bank that's going to allow you to borrow money. Like, there's no bank that would allow Cody and Robin to borrow that money that they needed to purchase that home, knowing
Mhm.
full well they borrowed the down payment from Janelle and Meri. There's
Yeah.
no bank that they wouldn't have got. They just flat out wouldn't have received a loan. They wouldn't have got a loan. So
Mhm.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I yeah. To me, I think that they look, guys. If you're a listener, do yourself a favor. I know it'll make for good TV. TLC is probably dissuading you from doing it. In my opinion, give her Coyote Pass. Let it go. You got yours. I got mine.
Mhm.
Coyote Pass is going to require. I think that ultimately Janelle's going to have to sell Coyote Pass anyway,
Mhm.
because it costs so much for them to develop that land. It
Yeah.
would be ridiculous. So just let her have it. Let her get her money.
Yeah.
Thank you for playing, and maybe you guys can have a relationship after that. You
Yeah.
know,
All but 2 acres, of course. Mary has her 2 acres.
which is insane. Like, I would be, that table would have went, like, they would have had that table on their chest. Like, this, like, we'd have had problems up there on County Pass. Like, you guys got me out here on County Pass on the side of this mountain by yourself, and you gonna come at me with this craziness?
Uh-huh.
You didn't think this through, did you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really think
Exactly.
that right there, deep down inside on reflection, because I didn't see it happening there, but really upon reflection and with Meri consulting with her friend Jen and discussing the episodes, I believe that was the moment that Meri realized, oh, Robin's not my friend. Oh, she doesn't have
Right.
my back, because that was so blatant right there that, I mean, not even that she had to give up her acres, but just that it wasn't fair that Meri had so little and that she wouldn't go to defend her. And then she did say, well, I need 4 myself, because what if Cody leaves me? Well, if Cody leaves you, you got the $2 million house.
Right.
That's what happens if
got
Cody
the
leaves
house,
you.
And Cody
Yeah.
already left me.
Yes,
Cody
right.
already left me.
I've got nothing. You're the legal wife. You get half of our, actually, you get half of all of Cody's acres. You're his wife.
Right. Or if something happens, those you inherit.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what did I have here? Meri is justified. What did I write here?
it changed. I thought I heard that property is investment, recreation. They couldn't build residential. Ooh. I heard there was from what I understand, there were originally restrictions on the property, but as an addendum for them to be able to purchase the property, they had a lot of the restrictions lifted. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly, like, because that usually any title restrictions, you would actually have to go to the deed off. Like, that's the way it is.
Mhm.
And
And all I got to say about that is there is no way that that real estate agent and the company that that agent represented would get on national television, would be showing all this property, knowing with a polygamous family on a show about polygamy, knowing they want to build individual houses, or knowing what the whole grand plan is. There is no way it would be so unethical of them to sell them something that they knew they could never build on, that there's something in the paperwork we're not seeing. So maybe there was a clause. If you look at some of that paperwork, because there were like little close-ups of things, so you couldn't read it all. There was also something that said you could never put a trailer on the property. Well, they did, and there was something else on there. Oh, there was something about the how far away the guest house needs to be behind the main house, and I'm like, well, wait a second. If these are all rentals, there's no guest house in main house. Those are just rental houses. Right. So that was verbiage in terms of your own personal property and where things would be. So that whole line of they would have never been able to build on it anyway, I completely dismiss it all as just fabrication and not having all the information. They just wouldn't do it. That real estate company, nobody would use them ever again.
Right.
If they did them dirty like that, no.
Well, it could have been one of those, in fairness, it could have been one of those fly-by-night deals that they had the property, they were able to get the property, just ditched out as much as they could, because I think they like I did the calculations before, and I think with their 6%, they walked away with a decent chunk of change.
Yeah, they did.
For properties. So maybe it was like, okay, we'll sell the properties, and I'm gonna go in the auto mechanic. You know what I mean?
That's true. Right. If they're living in the Bahamas right now, then this is neither here nor there, and they don't care if they have egg on their face. But if it's still a functioning agency,
so I can open up my Pizza Hut.
Yeah. Based on the fact they showed multiple properties and all that, I wouldn't get the impression that they had their hands in with a whole bunch of investors and land and everything, and that they're still around. Right. But I don't know. Listen, I could be wrong. That's just my opinion. My opinion is they would have been able to build on that property.
Right. Yeah, it's just I don't know. Like I think they should just give it to Janelle. Give it to Janelle and Meri. They can break it down however they break it down. Mm-hmm. Let them get their money out of it, so that way they can be financially made whole. And then you just, okay, that's it. And let's try to get together on Christmas. And
that's the smart thing. That would be the smart thing to do for sure.
Yeah. But because nothing breaking up family faster than money.
Yeah.
Money and wills.
Yeah. On the next page here, I have some notes about Meri, bringing up Meri. And it was when Janelle was saying that Meri and I went from cordial to frosty overnight. And we
Right.
snipped at each other over all these small things. And I did underline this and write, LOL. She said, when she was younger, Meri had quite an overbearing personality. I'm like, well, we saw a lot of overbearing personality through the years, but I'd love to see what it looked like when she was younger. But
It was
she
worse,
goes,
right?
I can only imagine, which would make sense that she didn't really have any friends, because it really seems that she didn't have that ability to self-monitor herself and be able to see herself through other people's eyes, because that seemed to be a theme through this entire series, that that she wasn't always aware. And that goes into the next paragraph. Actually, she said, I was unable to do, this is Janelle, I was unable to do anything right, or rather in a way that suited Meri. I folded Cody's clothes incorrectly. I bought the wrong dish soap. I put the dishes away in the wrong places. I learned never, ever to fold Meri's laundry for her. And she made it clear that I was disrupting her household. And so, like,
Right.
after I read that, I put notes down saying, Meri, I feel like Meri's justified in a lot of these areas. Okay, so Meri was there at the home. She had a system in place, and Janelle came in and she sort of disrupted it. Meri's a little fastidious about how she wants things, and she has things in a certain way. What I think went wrong is that, along with the paragraph before where she said she had quite an overbearing personality, I think Meri's delivery is off. I think that all of this could have been eased over if Meri could have brought her personality closer to where, because Janelle's way down here. She's like, I want no confrontation. I want no problems. I'll do what you say. And Meri's up here like, this is going to go like this. It's going to go like this. And if anything goes wrong, she'll snap and bite. And so there was if Meri could have just brought it down a few notches and been able to communicate effectively, like, listen, this makes me comfortable. This works for me. Can we do it like this? I think Janelle would have been like, absolutely. I think Janelle would have been like, we'll do everything your way. I don't really care. I think their whole argument, although in the book, and a lot of times they'll get into the little petty things that she did this or she said this and this happened here and she did this. In the end, I think it's all just a huge imbalance of personalities in the inability to, for Meri specifically, to self-evaluate and see what was going on between them and bring it down. And I also blame that, because there's no way Janelle could have corrected Meri. That's out of it. But I also blame Cody, because Cody was hands off, as you can read through this chapter. He did not step in and try to help at all. And that's totally on him. He needed to step in and let Meri know that she needed to work at bringing Janelle into the house, and she needed to communicate and talk to her. So, through the years, you hear about these little things, and she liked it like this, and she liked it like this, and I couldn't do this, and I couldn't do that. It comes down to just talking in a gentle tone.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I think that ultimately, because I don't disagree. And I think that if you're trying to go to work, I think that if you are in a situation where, and this is one of to me, one of the root problems with polygamy. If you're in a situation where you're entering into a polygamous family, you are a plus one in that family. You are being added into that family. And so when Meri talks about it, when Janelle talks about it, what's the first thing she said? After Cody and I returned from our honeymoon, I moved into the guest bedroom of his and Meri's house. The guest bedroom. If it's a house that you share with your husband, no matter how big the room is, the small room is, it's a bedroom. And if anything, you could call it a second master. If it's that, you know what I mean? If you are part of the household as an equal partner and as a equal participant. And even as you talk about it, one of the last things they said in the next paragraph was she made it clear I was disrupting her household. This was a family, supposedly. This was a union between Cody, Meri, and Janelle, where each one was supposed to be equal. So you can't disrupt her household because she doesn't have a household any longer. It's now you, Cody, and Meri's household. And this is one of the fundamental problems that I think that exists in these types of relationships that you have to overcome if you're going to try to participate in it. Because Mary was probably particular about a lot of the stuff and the way the stuff was being done, not because she's necessarily particular, as much as this woman is trying to step on her turf and she's trying to establish dominance in her relationship because she's jealous of another person coming into that relationship.
Yeah.
And so this is her form of pushback. She can't push back on what she's really mad about, which is Cody taking a second wife. So instead, she's mad about how the dishes are being washed and how the towels are being folded. And you're having arguments about stuff that really doesn't mean anything and that nobody really gives a damn about. But it's acceptable for you to argue about how she's folding Cody's sweaters as opposed to Cody spending time in your bedroom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think it took her a long time to get over that too. Like she didn't want Christine either. It wasn't really until Robin that she started looking at it differently temporarily until she realized she made a mistake there too. But yeah, and I think that maybe all those trips that she was taking with Cody too, she was in his ear there. And so it gave her a sense of, because she was also had very low self-esteem herself, that it gave her a sense of control and power and increased her self-esteem to be like, oh, this woman, she's doing it all wrong. Yeah.
Like, how dare she?
Mm-hmm.
It was Miss Indies. I thought Cody and Meri rented from Janelle. Anyway, they rented from Meri and Janelle. Janelle rented to Cody and Meri in the beginning of their relationship after Janelle left Mary's husband. She had a house. And then they eventually sold the house because they were doing a whole bunch of moving around and transitioning and stuff. And she found herself in a situation where she had to move into Mary's house in the trailer. This is when they were living in that trailer. Having three. And Danny tells, I don't know how many men would think that having three wives in a trailer would be a great thing, not even if they're married. The whole too many hens thing. Yeah. That's a lot of getting yelled at. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of getting yelled at. Like, what are you doing? So I just can't do it. But I think that there is a point to that. And like, it did bother me, like the whole thing of when you look at, and this is one of the points. Actually, I might do. I was telling Jenny earlier. This might actually be the subject matter for a companion video that I'll put out later this week, specifically addressing this issue. If you look at each one of the wives, at least the OG3, you had Meri, who, when she was very young, she suffered from shyness. Then you had Christine, who had a sense of naivete because she hadn't really been exposed to the world, and she kind of went into things not fully understanding what the parameters of this thing were. And she had kind of an innocent way of looking at a lot of these situations. And of course, you had Janelle, who we've now realized or at least I've now realized, suffered from self-esteem issues, especially when she was younger, both on her physical appearance and her standing, which is part of the reason why I think she wasn't quick to assert herself and be combative with Meri. It's just a suffering of that insecurity. Of course, Meri has the insecurity because she was shy. I think part of that shyness was the fact that she wasn't secure or confident in herself. And I think that those things actually allowed them to walk in and to be dominated in this type of relationship. Now, the ironic part is, and this is where it got kind of trippy for me, when you look at Robin and when she entered into the family, of the three women, Robin is the one who didn't have, like, you can say whatever you want to say about Robin. She's maniacal, she's sneaky, she's mischievous, she's lowbrow. Somebody called her lowbrows earlier. She's deceptive, she's controlling, etc., etc., etc. The one thing you can't say about Robin is that she's weak, and you can't say that she doesn't have self-esteem. She has self-esteem issues, or she's not confident in herself. So she walked into this situation, and I think that that's how she was able to move into the first wife position. beyond like Mary. And that's how she was able to gain favor. What did you think about that? Maybe I'll put it in a poll. I'll put it in a poll to see what you guys think.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, put it in the poll.
Yeah. I'm
curious to see.
Yeah, right.
What you think.
But what are your thoughts about it?
I completely agree with that. I think you're spot on. I think that it was interesting for the wives to see for the first time, because all three of them did come in with their own insecurities and self-esteem issues and all of that, which also kind of created their own little problems amongst each other. But Robin coming in very confident in who she was and what she had to offer. And she knew she would be queen bee and make her way to the top. I think that had a big impact. And I think actually ultimately down the road may have been a springboard years on, not at the beginning, because at the beginning I feel like they almost all certainly idolize isn't the word, but they admired the way that she could talk to Cody and she could manipulate Cody and all that, because they weren't able to. And so I feel like they truly did want to learn from her early on, until they started to learn that some of that teaching she was giving them was really manipulating situations and trying to get herself in between relationships and be able to be in the know about everything. But during that process and through the years, I think her presence and her relationship with Cody and the way she held herself and that confidence that she did have is something that the wives seeing that over all the years is what helped them eventually pick up and walk out. I think without Robin, they wouldn't have done that. They would still be there. They would still be probably in Lehigh. I don't know. It would be interesting to know, would they be happy? Would they not be happy? Well, what's better in the end? I mean, it seems like it's all working out right now for the best, but at what cost did that go through to have that? But yeah, I think that she played a role of both manipulator, but also teacher to the other wives, whether it be directly or indirectly. For sure. Robin. Oh yeah. I'm finishing up a video right now on Robin. That I'm finishing editing, which is just about, it's kind of taken so many twists and turns. I hope it's somewhat cohesive by the time it gets published. I had so many different clips and ideas and things from the book, and then I was recording it, and then I had to go to work, and so I logged on for work, and I was doing that, and then I had a break because I had a kid not show up, so I recorded more, and then I'm trying to splice it all together, and I'm like, oh, this is a hot mess. But hopefully there's something somebody can take out of it. But I've been like immersed in Robin for the past few days, because it's essentially about her, and it started one direction. It kind of took many different directions, but the whole intent behind it was just sort of Robin's confidence, going along with the idea of her confidence and self-esteem in being able to spout out pearls of wisdom on polygamy. She presents herself as the expert on polygamy, coming into a relationship that was already established for 20 years with all these wives. And she comes in fresh. And yet, at every interview, she will take an opportunity to say, well, the women of our faith say, or, well, the principal believes this. And it just drove me nuts so much. And there's some that are on the tip of my tongue that are I can picture it, but I've never been able to find them. And I have to just let it go, because I had enough other stuff to make a video, but I'm like, I know there's more examples that would make this really great. But yeah, that's Robin. That's Robin and her confidence. Albeit not always deserved, but she has the confidence nonetheless, and spouts things as if they're truth. And you know what? If it wasn't for the sleuths of the world, I see how she got where everything she wanted in life and how things always went her way, because she does have an air of confidence about her, and she has a way of speaking as if she can't tell a lie, and as if everything she says is the gospel truth. And if she doesn't know about something, she'll just state it like it is, unless she really knows about something. This is the dichotomy of Robin. This could be a whole separate video too. If she really knows about something but doesn't want to talk about it, then all of a sudden, every other word out of her mouth is, I don't know. Did that happen? I don't know. What's going on? So she will play the I don't know card when she's uncomfortable and she doesn't want to answer things. She will use it as a tool in given situations. But in everyday conversation and that, you never hear her say she doesn't know about something. She always has the answer.
Right. And I think because I had some stuff listed for Robin. This is actually the second companion video I was thinking about doing with regard to this live or this conversation. It actually touches when we discuss Robin and we talk about her influence on the family. I thought it was very interesting because, again, I think that there's a point. Let me see where we are. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, overwhelmingly, so far the poll is 96%. We were saying, yeah, she took advantage of the insecurity. Wow. Okay. Not even close.
Not even close.
Not even close. What? That's surprising, but it's just because when I read it, I was like, wow, she comes in as the full person. And one of the things that struck me, especially when you talk about Robin and her influence in the family, one of the things like we talk about, like the whole idea, you mentioned the whole idea of she speaks Codanese or whatever the case may be. She's the one that understands them. And I always felt like Robin put herself in a position of authority. And ironically, I think that because she had a different approach, she had favor from Cody because she was the new wife. She was the wife that he was attracted to. And she presented as though she understood things. So you have a wife who has the husband's ear, and she presents like she's doing it for everybody's best interest. So I think that early on, oh, wow, my mic was turned. Surprised you guys could hear me. So I think early on, she was in a situation where she was saying things. She presented herself as an authority. The wives gave her a lot of the power and influence within the family, thinking that she was using the power for good as opposed to for not. And as it turns out, she was doing it more for the latter. One of the things that they had mentioned, especially or what Janelle had mentioned when she was referring to Robin, this is later in the chapter on page 132. She says, these days, it is often Robin who takes the lead in our family discussions. She keeps a cool head and navigates us through difficult waters. She never lets us leave the room until we've settled an issue. Thanks to Robin, we are able to avoid bruised feelings and the long periods of unhappiness that used to follow our family talks. And when I read that, I said to myself, the power of being the person who decides what is what, you made Robin the decider. She gets to decide who's right, who's wrong, whose points are valid, whose points are invalid, which actually supports later, I should have pulled that clip, which actually supports later the idea that when Christine wanted to leave the family, she looked at Christine and said, the reasons why you want to leave the family are invalid. You don't have a good reason as to why you want to leave. You should have to stay because I don't feel that your reasons are good enough. And I like when she said that, I was like, that is crazy. That is insanely arrogant for you to assume that you're going to tell somebody else they have to stay in a relationship. But as I look at it, it's consistent with the idea that they gave her authority and they trusted that, like, because I even equated that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of throwing it, but when Jay, I equated it to they made Robin the fixer. So she was able to come in and fix a lot of the problems that they had. And the dangers in this is the same reason. I know the sister wives do it all the time, so I'm going to use the example. It's the same reason why counselors, therapists, and people in trusted positions can't date their clients. Because when you're able to do that, there's a certain level of power that's involved when you have that trusted position. That you should be looking out for their best interest, but if you're able to attain their trust, you're able to get them, find out their secrets, you could use it to your own benefit,
Mm-hmm.
and you could dominate that person. And I think that, like I said, there's a lot of things you can say about Robin, but to me, this is more consistent with the character that I've grown to know on television. That
Yeah.
she learned and was able to manipulate a lot of the situations because she
Mm-hmm.
was able to insert herself in those situations. Kind of like what you had mentioned with her. I speak Cody, so you guys need to talk to me. Tell me your problems and your issues, and I'll translate them for him so he can understand. And she only tells him what she wants him to know. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so if it
'Cause
works in her favor, yeah, I'll talk about it. If it don't,
yeah,
then
she's seeing the
no
problem
nothing.
through her eyes. Like, yeah,
Right.
let me get this to work out for the two of you that's going to benefit me, intentionally or not, even if it's subliminal.
Mhm.
It's going to be, she's in that power of like, yeah, let me help you. Let me have that additional information. And you know that she was the wife that was whispering in Cody's ear the most when they were behind closed
Right.
doors. She had his ear, and when she said jump, he said how high. So she had that kind of ammo by knowing the deep, dark secrets of what's going on at the other houses. And she could say to him, don't say anything. But do you know so-and-so let this kid get away with this? Or so-and-so knows that this one was out past whatever hours and came home drunk, or whatever they could have, whatever they were sweeping
Mhm.
under the rug and not sharing with Cody, but like came up to her. She had that power. And then of course the overt, let me just come into your relationship and mediate, which like you say, they enjoyed at first, and they wrote in here, oh, it's so great. She has a special way of speaking that is different. And I do think, in all fairness, based on the amount of fights that are mentioned in this book, that she does come from a peaceful perspective. I don't think she's a screamer or a yeller. I don't think that's her MO.
Mhm.
That's not how she needed to get away with things. She had other ways of manipulating people. So I do want to say she probably did offer something to them that was beneficial, because those three were so
Right.
young and so immature when they got married to Cody, and Cody was as well. That I think at the time that they all kind of matured 20 years later, but never really, they were just at that point starting to go to therapy. So they really didn't have anybody truly working with them. And there probably was some benefits to the way that she was talking to Cody, and that she could mediate. And they probably thought, this is great for a short period of time. It's part of that whole manipulation too. I'm going to come in and I'm going to help somewhat. And they realize, oh, wait, this is help. We don't talk to each other this way. This is great. That's all she needed to do. And then she should have stepped away. But she used that as her in to be the person that could be involved in all their relationships. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall the first time Christine said to her, no, Cody and I have got this. Or if Janelle said,
Right.
we got it. We don't need you today. We're fine. Thank you. Learned all your strategies.
Right. No, but I think that that's part of the problem, though, because I don't think that realization of that conversation happened till much later.
Yeah.
And by that time, she was already, she had already earwormed her way into a position of power. Because there is inherently, especially when you have somebody, and this is, again, I think that this speaks not only to the immaturity, but the insecurities of each one of the participants that she's dealing with. If you, hey, what is it? The old saying, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And you don't have to necessarily, like, you look at Robin and say, well, she's not 100%, she's not a whole person, she's not completely healthy. But she may be more put together than the people she's dealing with. And at that point, it just becomes relative. So if she's dealing with these ladies who have insecurities and don't necessarily have a whole lot of maturity because they're young and their understanding of the world is one way, she's also dealing with a husband who has those same insecurities. Like, because there's a lot of points where I can point to Cody and say that this dude is crazy insecure about who he is and what his standing is, not only within the family, but his self-identity, his position as supposedly as a man, something that's important to him and how he identifies himself. It's important to him. And one of the things that he kept talking about, ironically, in season 16, 17, and 18, was the one word that kept coming up all the time was loyalty. They're not loyal to me. And I think that loyalty question actually stems back further than the whole COVID experience. and actually taps into something that you had mentioned earlier, which would be if you're having the conversations with Cody and she's having these private behind the door conversations with Cody and she's letting Cody know what she's talking about with these other ladies. And maybe she's ascribing certain belief patterns or issues or things, concerns she has to somebody else. Hey, Christine is worried about the kids not bop, 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 bop. This is something Christine's never said to her, but something that she feels for herself and her children. And she says it to Cody. And Christine doesn't trust you, but you didn't hear that from me. Don't create a problem for me between me and the sister wives. That creates a bond not only between her and Cody, but it creates a bridge or a gap of distrust between Cody and the wife that she's talking about. And so you're doing two things. You're getting Cody's trust and you're separating him from the person whom he should be listening to. And in fact, in most cases, you find people will discourage any crosstalk or confirmation about what is said. So they'll come back and tell you, I'm going to tell you this about this other person and what they saying about you behind your back. And then when they tell you, but you can't ever mention it to them because then they'll know that I'm the one that told you. So you don't ever go back to them and tell them, hey, man, I heard you were talking ABC. You said this behind my back, this, that, and other behind my back. And they can't say, because they don't know, they can't deny it. But because you never have the conversation, you just sitting there mad at them for weeks or months or years, but about something they possibly have never said. You know what I mean? That's what I always say in that situation. Yeah, so-and-so was talking about you. Oh, wow, really? Well, what did you say when they were saying all that?
Right.
I want to hear your part. What were you saying? And why they feel comfortable telling you? They know we cool, so why they telling you all that about me?
Yeah, I think Cody did a really good job in the early years too, keeping the secrets and not sharing with the other wives. And then he started to unravel at the end and started, like throwing out situations. I remember there was a specific one he said to Janelle, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but after he told her, well, you did this to Robin, she's like, oh, okay, I see how this goes. I understand. How would you even know about that situation? That was a private conversation that we had, which means she is going and complaining. And that was like, for Janelle, one of those aha moments too. And Christine was very much aware of it as well. I think that Robin too, if you notice in all of the picnic table and fake outdoor fireplace scenes that they had with the family, you'll notice Robin always sat there, even in family meetings. She was pretty quiet unless she had to share information on like what life as a polygamist was. But when it came to personal issues in the family and working through things, she would be the person to kind of say, let's talk about it. And then she never said a word. She was like mum's the word. She never had anything to offer, to share. She would just like, if somebody was getting ready to go away, she would just say, oh, don't walk away. Like that's about it. That's all she had to offer. And then she started unraveling at the very end when Cody did, like when he would speak up and she had to start covering his mouth. She's telling him, no, don't talk now. Like the real Robin started coming out at the end because Cody was just sort of letting it fly. And then you started seeing what was really going on in her head. Those earlier times, I think she just had that confidence that you were speaking of. She just sit there in silence because she's like, I know the two of us, we've been doing pillow talk every single night for I don't know how many years. I know exactly where he stands on this and he knows where I stand. So I'm just going to sit back here and be quiet and let the rest of you fight it out and look terrible on TV and get Cody all worked up. And I'm going to be the one that'll be able to say, I didn't say anything. I was quiet the whole time. Yeah.
Yeah, you're a reasonable one. And I think there's also that point too, where if you're controlling the information, which is where I think that Robin kind of devolved into, like she found herself in a situation where she was controlling information. Yeah. So she controlled not only what Cody heard, but what he said. But even beyond that, this is kind of the weird thing. Like I'll equate this to text messages. This is why text messages in this new world are so dangerous. Text messages and how you read them are pretty much uniquely tied to how you feel about the text messages you go through it. So if you're in a good mood and somebody says something, you're like, wow, haha, that's funny. Okay, I can appreciate that joke. But if you're in a bad mood, same comment, all of a sudden, oh, this dude gonna come in my neck. This is what we doing to each other. This is ridiculous. And you write like a 3-page, text message and cussing them out. Like it's that same thing, and it's all about how you can color the attitudes of the other people. So if she's in Cody's ear, and I'm not saying that she did, well, I'm not saying that I know for sure this is what she did. I'll say it that way. But if she's in Cody's ear and she's telling Cody night after night that he's at her house, they're laughing at you. You know they don't take you serious. You know they don't view you as the man of the house, the leader of the family. You know that you get to know people. One of the dangers in knowing people is what makes them tick. You know what buttons you can push because you know what they're sensitive about and what they're insecure about. And if you can hit those insecurity buttons, you could play them like a flute. And I think that there's a possibility, again, I can't prove this, but there's a possibility that that's exactly what Robin was doing. Knowing how Cody is, there's certain things that you can say to Cody, and you don't have to come out and put a name to it, but you can describe a situation, a scenario. You can set it up, and you know that something is coming down the pike because you heard the 3 wives complaining about it. So you know it's coming down the pike, and you start to color his attitude towards that thing before he even has the conversation. So when they approach him about this particular thing, he already has his mind made up. And what's worse is you can put it in a situation where he's already looking at the manipulation or them trying to tell him something. And he's thinking, oh, this is them calling me a fool. They think I'm a damn fool. Robin was right. And then that does 2 things. One, it takes, 3 things. One, it makes you not trust your wives or that resource. 2, it makes you feel closer to the person who told you about the situation. And 3, it gives you a false sense of validity because you feel like you're actually winning because now you predicted that this thing was happening. And thanks to your trusted advisor, you were warned about it. So I think that would be another way that she kind of, she might have been able to get in there and make, do the customer service and make him the best customer.
Yeah.
Make him feel like number 1 customer. There was a point. There was going back. There was a point where they were talking about like the relationship early on. Obviously the problems between Janelle and Meri were growing early on. Meri was having trouble, getting pregnant and all that. But before that even happened, there was a point where Cody and Meri used to go off, and when Cody had to work out of town or whatever, Meri would accompany him. And that was one of the things that was talked about in the book.
Yeah.
And where is it at?
114, I think. Yeah, the last paragraph on 114.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, you're right. Often Cody would take Meri with him when he worked out of state, which made me very resentful of her. I couldn't just take off from work. She seemed to be able to do. That's a shot.
There's a dig. Yep. She seemed to be able to, not like, oh, she had a job where it was easy for her to do. She seemed to be able to just take off and not get any pay. That's the shocker of it. I bet Janelle was salaried. It was just hard for her to have enough days to get off. But for Meri to take off like that, and it would cost him money to take her on this trip. Now they're eating out and they're, he had to stay somewhere anyway. So maybe the housing was already covered, but we're losing all the money from every day she's not working. And then and Meri has expensive taste too. And who knows what other little things she bought along the way. Like that was a huge financial setback on top of the emotional setback that here the 2 of them are not getting along at all. And Meri, I'm sure, loved every second of take me. Yeah, take me. I'll go. And Cody's just dumb enough to say, well, yeah, I don't want to be alone. I'd rather have a female by my side. So sure, come along with me. Had no ability to comprehend how this was affecting Janelle. And I found it interesting right before that too, that when Janelle was talking about how her, at this point, when she's going on all these trips, Janelle and Meri were at a point that they were just tolerating each other, that they didn't want it. And I wrote, it reminded me so much of having a really bad college freshman year roommate is where she was.
Right.
You're in a new environment. You don't really know the other person. Turns out you have opposite personalities. You don't really get along. The other person seems harsh to you. You're in less than ideal living situations. It's tight, it's small, you're on top of each other. And then on top of it, Janelle ended up just going home on the weekends to get away from Meri any opportunity, just like that college student that can't stand their roommate that's having a bad freshman year. Does too. Like, I'm coming home every weekend, Mom, to get out of here. It just was like, it rang so true to all the stories of Meri was the bad freshman roommate to Janelle. But then to me, it just felt like rubbing salt in the wound that Meri would then take off and do all these trips with Cody. And Janelle, it appears that Janelle never did. There was no mention of her ever going on one of the trips.
No. Well, because it says, was it, I couldn't just think of work, blah, blah, blah. But when Meri didn't work, she didn't get paid. That's crazy. When she didn't work, she didn't get paid. I thought it was extremely likely to blow off work for fun. I thought it was extremely flaky to blow off work for fun like that, especially when we were so broke. BROKE. They were broke. They were brokies. They were poories.
Yeah.
I mean, which I could get. Like, when you're on struggle mode, somebody taking off work is serious business, especially when they're not getting paid. But I also think that there's a point where, going back to one of the first things we talked about as far as security, and this is one of the things that was incongruent to me, because when you're looking at it, you're saying that I like security, I like having jobs, I like having money coming in, but you attach yourself to people who don't care about money.
Yeah.
Because Cody is taking, like you said, even if Meri is taking all work, Cody is saying, okay, fine, why don't you go ahead and take all work, knowing full well that you're struggling to pay bills.
Yeah.
That would be a conversation. But I think that there's also a point where, again, talking about insecurities, there's a point where Cody, I think, was afraid of being alone. So he wanted to take Meri for company because he didn't have the security in himself to say, you know what, I'm going to go out and make this money. So I'm going to be gone for a little bit. I'm going to be by myself, but no, I'm doing this for the family so that I can take care of you guys. He wasn't that grounded and that secure in himself to be able to walk out and do that alone. So he took Meri with him.
Right.
There's also, even to a point that you made, there's also a deeper insult, I'll say it that way, in the form of when Meri decides to go with Cody out of town on a work trip, Meri is asserting herself as Cody's wife. She's Cody's wife because when she shows up, that's not Cody's friend. This is my wife, Meri.
Yeah.
Hey, my wife is coming out of town with me. And that's just her reaffirming once again that, this is her, laying out her domain. This is my husband. And you are merely a guest in our marriage. And this, to me, is where a lot of the failings, like Janelle had said, that, most polygamous couples fail within the first year. I think this is why.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to add people to your relationship as opposed to building a new relationship, which nobody wants to do.
Right.
Especially if you've already been there for day one. You're not trying to start over,
And I'd love to know exactly what he did on these trips, because in that same section, they mention in the book that she writes that Cody would be gone from 6:30 in the morning until 10:30 at night, 6 days a week. He's a horrible salesman. They didn't have any money. Janelle's working full time. Meri's working part time, and Cody's working from 6:30 in the morning to 10:30 at night, 6 days a week. Clearly, he is purely commission and selling nothing.
Right. Especially if you're broke.
Yeah.
if you go on that long, you should be making crazy money. And the ironic part is, and here's here's the weird part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And not even to besmirch anybody who works one of these jobs. The truth of the matter is that people may look at certain folks and look down their nose at certain folks, but the truth of the matter is, if Cody would have worked those same hours at any retail store, he could have been a bag boy or a cart pusher, and
100%.
he would have made way more money doing that job from 5:30, 6:30 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. You would have been creasing crazy bank. Your pockets would have been swole out this world. Like your money just on hourly rate. Like I'm talking about minimum wage, working that many hours.
Yeah.
You would have been in a better position, and you would have been put on a suit and tie, jumping in your Lexus convertible and driving 300 miles or whatever to sell nothing.
Right. And you had to pay for the food. You had to pay for your gas, everything that was involved in that. He could have been home every single night if he would have been at the McDonald's at the corner. He didn't even need that convertible. He probably could have walked to something and flipped burgers for the amount of money. And it's, but that matches. Yeah, it matches his personality, doesn't it? He probably, like when he was in selling billboards, he probably made $2,000 when he sold the advertisement on this one for X amount of months. So they're like, well, you don't get any salary, but every time you sell one of these signs, you get another $2,000 in your pocket. And there's Cody being so illogical, going, ooh, $2,000 every time I just sell one bulletin board. I'll do that job. Like, not at all thinking about how difficult it might be to get somebody to spend the $40,000 to advertise on that billboard to begin with. I mean, it's just, it matches. It's so Cody that he would pick a job that has that kind of hours and bring in no money. And later on in the book, it did mention with Robin, or maybe it was even in the prior section with Robin, where or maybe it was actually Cody that said it in his section with Robin, where when he was getting ready to propose, that he had no money. Yeah. And he was getting ready to sell his car, but then all of a sudden a billboard would be sold and all of a sudden they come into a windfall. It's like, okay, we've only ever heard about one billboard he ever sold. I don't know if he's ever sold any more. I've never, that he would have mentioned it if it would have come up more often than that.
Right.
I'd love to know what the other sale jobs were.
It's funny too, because I think that there is because even speaking about character, I think that it's not just the idea, because I agree that part of the way that you can pull him in to the aura of becoming this salesman is say, you sell one billboard, you can make up to $2,000. You make one sale. But I also think that it's the mystique of saying that he's a salesman and having that title. Like when I worked in corporate America, one of the things that I noticed was the importance of people's title or position within the company. Like it's a weird, to me, it was very weird because I never put a whole lot of stock in any of that. Like I was telling my daughter today, we were talking about job stuff, and I was telling her that, from my perspective, the way I looked at the world and the way I view the world, I have the same conversation, which I have with the CEO of a company, that I have with guys in the mailroom. Like I approach everybody pretty much the same way. I don't care what your position is. Everybody put their pants on at one time.
Yeah.
But the people who work at a lot of these jobs, they so identify closely with the roles that they have within the company that they'll tell you, if you walk up and say, hi, I'm James, or hi, I'm Jenny, to these people, they will look you in the face like, I'm vice president, da-da-da. I'm a manager or director, da-da-da. You know what I mean? And it's more important that they tell you that their position it is that they tell you their name.
Yeah.
And I think that with Cody, that might have been part of the reason why, being a salesman, and it was more important than the money that he was actually bringing in. It's more important that I tell people that I'm a salesman, because I'm a salesman. You could tell by my car, you could tell by my clothes that I'm an important guy. And this kind of goes to the insecurity. When I talk about the insecurity of his character, this might, to me, plays into the insecurity of you having to propose yourself or put yourself out a certain way in order for you to feel any value within yourself.
Yeah.
For you to feel that value. And it also makes it easy for somebody, not necessarily saying Robin, but somebody like a Robin to play
Mhm.
on those insecurities. All they have to do is make you feel important. You are the man that you pretend to be. And yes, you are. You're that great guy. You're that big man. You're that wonderful dude. And this is why I need my own house for $2 million. Yeah, I'm gonna give you that, girl. I'm gonna do that for you, girl. And I think that plays into the idea why he was so pressed about going to sit on her couch all the time, because she made him feel like a big shot,
Yeah.
which is what he always wanted to be. Because
Mhm.
again, I never looked down. I've had jobs. I've driven forklifts. I've done warehouse work. I've worked in stores. I've managed retail stores. I've done all kinds of stuff.
Mhm.
And one of the things that is a reality, there's no shame in any work,
Mhm.
because especially if you're taking care of your family to do it, there's no shame in that. You should never feel shame in that. But at the
Right.
same time, don't let people make you feel bad. And I would say this to young Cody: don't make people make you feel bad because you clocking in at the McDonald's and you asking, "Do you want fries with that?" If you're able to pay your bills with that money, the hell
Absolutely.
with that.
Yeah.
Who gives a damn if you got a brand new car? If you barely making your payments on that car, what
Mhm.
difference does making your car is new?
Yeah.
Get on your bicycle, ride your ass to McDonald's, and do your thing.
Mhm.
Take care of your family. That's what it's about.
I mean,
But
shoot, McDonald's
I
is
mean,
paying like $18 an hour now.
oh yeah, now, yeah, yeah, baby.
That's a place to go now
You
if you're looking
you
for a
can work at
job. The heck with minimum
first
wage.
time people. Oh, that's for kids. Shit. You can make some money. These retail
Yeah.
stores, you can make a grip. You can
Yes.
make a grip. Don't get it twisted. You be living lovely. I knew guys who graduated law school, crazy debt. Like I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars coming out of top tier law schools. And yeah, they make like you if you graduate a top tier law school in the top 15% of your class, you could work at some law firms and you could start at maybe $110,000. But after taxes and everything else, you're still making student loan payments.
Yeah.
So ironically, somebody who's working at say a trade job, they go and they learn to do pipe fitting or welding or
Mhm.
air conditioning. They could potentially be making more money than somebody who graduated law school, Harvard Law
It's
School.
true.
Just
It's
saying.
true. It's true.
You know.
Yeah.
Big shout out to Elizabeth Begg.
Thanks,
299
Elizabeth.
super chat. No message, just the love. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
Uh, hey, what's this? The most powerful people on a college campus are the administrative assistants. They make the campus run. You piss one off, you may never
Mhm.
get a meeting space or classroom. You
There
know
you
what, Daddy? Story time.
go.
Um, that is actually, it's funny you say that because literally, I made that same statement to my daughter today. Like I was talking
Mhm.
to her and I was talking about how you have positions that people, put a lot of hoopla in the positions, kind of what I just said now, because it was fresh on my mind from a conversation I had earlier. And I said that when I would go up and have conversations in the executive suite with the CEO or the administrative assistant, me and her were cool as hell. Like we would talk all the time. Hey, how you doing? Blah 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 blah. And it would always amaze me because we had senior people in my department who couldn't get meetings with them, and they would contact Jay. We need to try to get some time with them. Except you think you make that happen? No problem. I call up the administrative assistant who I was cool with. Hey, how you doing? We chop it up for a little bit. Yeah, I need to get in there real quick to see him. Oh, he's booked out all day. You know what? We got about 15, 20 minutes at this time to this time. Why don't you come on up about then, Jay? No problem. Cool. If you are friends with the secretary or the
Mhm.
administrative assistant, they're the gatekeepers, Jack. Rule of the trade. If you friends with them, they can get you in because they know everything that's going on. They know who he's talking to or where she's going. They know when the meetings are happening. They know when they're going to be available. The
Mhm.
administrative assistants, control. They're the keeper of the land. So yeah, keeper of the kingdom. So yeah.
It's the truth.
But again, that's just being friends with everybody. Like just treat people like you treat people. You don't have to worry about.
You see in the chat, Teresa Skinner is reading your mind about the oranges and apples analogy.
Teresa Skinner. Did anyone else catch Janelle's orange and apples analogy? Robin later used it on the tell-all. No original thought on that one. Teresa Skinner, you got me. I pulled that clip, which we will be watching a little bit. We can actually jump to it now, but let me get to the super chat from Elizabeth Big. $2.99 super chat. Hey, big fan from Sydney. Love your channel. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Hello, Australia.
Meant to put that in there, but I appreciate it anyway. Thank you so much. Hello, Australia, the land down under. Pardon my attempted accent, which is probably terrible. Like, this is horrible. Well, that's pretty good. People from Australia like this. Dude, it sounds terrible. He sounds sick. He's had something wrong with him.
When I don't know if it was a live or if it was an actual, it may have been a recorded video, but one of my videos, I did an accent for whatever reason. I don't know who I was imitating. This was a while ago, but I just remember somebody writing in the comments, LOL, your accent. I laughed so hard. I'm like, oh, I tried. It may have just been a Southern accent I think I was using. I don't even think I was going with a foreign country. I think I was just doing the South and apparently really slaughtered it. And my other job is a speech therapist too. I mean, that's why I never went into accent modification because it's really not my forte.
Well, you can hear it, but you can't.
Yeah.
And it's not easy. Like I think that I've been in situations where I've traveled a little bit, and you come back and you maybe pick up certain like a bit of accents here and there. But I can do that, but it's very difficult for me to do it just off the cuff. Like all of a sudden I want to speak this way or that way. Like I'm very impressed with people who can do that.
I'm not
one.
Yeah.
I'm not one of them.
I wanted that.
I might be able to get it.
Yeah.
James is like the cleaning lady. She knows everyone in the office, and she even knows their fares too. LOL. Yeah.
There you go.
Cleaning people. Couple people in the office setting. You know, as a general practice, like you don't really want to cross anybody, but there's 3 people specifically you don't want to piss off: administrative assistants, secretaries. Don't make them angry because they can screw you up. Cleaning people. Don't screw them over because they know half the time they know when you come in, when you leave, what you ate for lunch. They know more about you than anybody else there. And the mailroom people, because they know what mail you're getting, they know what you're subscribing to. And I guess with today's technologies or whatever, IT people, because they know what you're looking at, how long you're looking at it, and they probably have screenshots. So, a couple folks to steer clear of. So we'll do the since Teresa Skinner jumped me and got me.
That's right.
We'll talk about the apples to orange thing.
She beat you to the punch. Where is that in the book?
Yeah, because I had it listed. Let me see. Because this is one of those chapters. I know we went a little far afield, but this is one of those chapters where they have a lot of stuff in here that's been talked about.
Yeah, it's a long one too. Some of them are a lot shorter. They're about half this size, but this one has a lot. Oh, page 130, right in the middle.
Wrong way. I'm going to go back to my old system. Okay, yeah. This is something we've heard several times in the Sister Wives lore, in the Sister Wives show. They talk about comparison and jealousy. In this, Janelle says, comparison is the death of plural marriage. It leads to debilitating unhappiness. For instance, if I see that one of my sister wives has apples, my instinct is to say that I want apples, even if what I really want is oranges.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here is the clip. This clip actually I pulled from season 17 Tell All. I think it's episode 2, well maybe it's episode 3, the third installment of the Tell All. This is what Robin had to say on the Tell All.
If you're sitting there just constantly nagging at your husband about what you didn't get, even though you have this apple in your hand, but you really want her orange, then how is he supposed to feel like you see what he's doing for you? How is he supposed to feel appreciated? And why are you looking at my orange? You have an apple. You know, it's not better. It's just different.
Ooh, it's not better. It's just different. What are your thoughts on it?
Her intensity in that makes it that much better. That she not only is pilfering and plagiarizing the words of Janelle right from the book, but she's going to deliver it with passion. This is really my own idea, and I'm going to sell it to you. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? You know, we got it. We read it years ago in the book when Janelle said it.
I liked it the first time I heard it. I thought it was more compelling. Exactly. but the craziest thing to me is when I watched that, because I thought about it as soon as I read it, I was like, oh my goodness, I've heard this before. And I went to pull it so I could clip it up. And part of, with the YouTube copyright restrictions and everything, I have to be careful about how much or how little I actually show. Or we put on the show, the live or whatever, because I don't want to get either one of the channels dinged. But what she was saying, and I always thought this, what she was saying at the time was a shot at Janelle. Because what she said was, Cody has a special relationship with everybody. He didn't care about weight gain. He didn't care about stretch marks. He didn't, he would go to show affection to certain wives and they would reject him. And that's not a way that you have relationships with your husband, because if he shows you affection, you're supposed to reciprocate that affection. And she goes through that whole tirade. And then at the end of it, she does that whole apples to oranges thing. Now, I always suspected that Janelle was the person that she was targeting during that tirade. But the fact that she used a quote from Janelle's section of the book lets me further know that it was a slap in the face. And this is part of the reason why Janelle probably tells Robin, don't let me catch you on them streets. It's gonna be a problem. We'll be smoking the city, Jack, if I catch you in the streets slipping. Because she came right at this woman's neck. And that's one of the weird things about the relationship between Janelle and Robin, is that Robin is taking every opportunity to kind of hit Janelle. And it also taps back to me when we first were introduced to Janelle within the first few paragraphs of this particular chapter, same chapter she's quoting from, mind you. Janelle had said that she had always felt some insecurities because of her weight. And so it's funny to me that one of the things that you talk about when you're trying to lash at the sister wives and reprimand the sister wives for how they're treating Cody is the sister wives' weight. And then you quote her words. So again, when you hear people's weaknesses and you learn which buttons to push, you learn what to say to make them, to attack them.
And to double down on that,
right?
She shared in this moment that she's saying Janelle has stretch marks. Now, with their modesty standards, there is no way those women ever changed clothes in front of each other. At the beginning of the time when the show first started, they were still wearing the garments, the LDS Mormon underwear garment-y kind of things under all of their clothes all the time. That's how conservative they were at that time. So for her to put Janelle on blast like that and to throw it out, or any of the wives, for her to just say somebody has stretch marks out there, is again confirming that her and Cody are talking shit behind each other's backs when they're in bed together. And that is sharing intimate details with
Right.
someone, then you know that's not something that you want to share that with another sister wife. So, women are modest, and they don't want any of their imperfections to be put out there for the world to critique or even just know about. And I know that would have been one of those times where Janelle must have just been like, oh, really? Oh, really? Okay. I know how this goes now. I'm very much aware that nothing I have said or done is sacred anymore, that it all gets funneled through Robin. So, yeah, that was a good way to exit out the door.
And I would even take that a step further. I'll raise you yet again.
All
I'll
right.
take it a step further. I think that I've always taken a position that when you're in relationships with people, there's always lines that you can't cross. No matter how bad your argument or disagreement may be with your spouse, your significant other, your family member, friends, siblings, whatever the case may be, that there are certain things that you can say to your friend, that person, that if you say this thing, it's nuclear codes on your relationship. You just nuked your relationship. There's no coming back from this. So if you cross that Rubicon, it's well over.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that kind of is weird to me, weird or kind of stood out to me, I'll say it that way. One of the things that stood out to me is that Janelle keeps reinforcing the idea that Cody had certain levels of immaturity when they first got together, and then he developed this emotional maturity over time, and he developed this sense of how to treat the wives better, et cetera, et cetera. To your point, having a conversation with one of your wives, again, I'm not a polygamist, I know with what I know about women, you having a conversation with a woman about your lady, your ladies, stretch marks or things that she may feel like her physical appearance or things she may feel insecure about. And if that woman ever goes back and tells your wife, your girlfriend, or your significant other that you were sharing those things with her, that would be the nuclear codes on your relationship. Like she just sent one off in your name, because that's something it's going to be hard as hell for you to recover from that, because you're sharing something that's so personal, something that, no woman, I don't care whether you're a sister wife or not, no woman wants to hear about her stretch marks. That's going to be something that she has a certain level of insecurity about. No man wants to have oh yeah, his back is fat as hell. Like no man wants to hear his woman having that conversation with another dude. Like people just feel that way. And it strikes me that Robin, when Robin holds herself out as this person who is all-knowing, understanding, the Brown family therapist, essentially, but she doesn't understand that, I don't think so.
Right.
I think she completely understood what she was doing. But this is, again, that passive-aggressive attack where you're not necessarily saying the thing, but you're saying the thing. You're screaming it. That's throwing a hell of a gauntlet there.
Yeah. That was mean.
Yeah, it was insane. It's insanity. Insanity. Well, there was a point. Yeah, I'm gonna have to start doing my other way. This is becoming a little crazy, trying to go back and forth. You know what I'm talking about. When they started talking about how they were raising the kids and the different, like they started having children and things were becoming a little more understanding. Janelle had that funny part where she said, because Janelle was the first one to get pregnant, and talking about Christine coming into the family and how awesome that was. But she said that, when she had Logan, there were certain things that she was concerned about. And Christine and Meri didn't understand. Like she said she was tired and she was having trouble showering, trying to make a way to be able to do the things she needed to do for herself. And she was struggling with it. And these two were like, oh, I don't understand. What are you talking about? And all of a sudden they have kids like, oh, we understand.
Yeah. 1 year later.
Right. That's that subtle difference when you start having kids like, oh, that's what they talk about.
There's no way you
tired
can
all the
explain
time.
that first year to anyone. I mean, you just think, okay, whatever. It's a baby. It sleeps a lot. What's the deal? And especially if you're a nursing mother, like there's no sleep. There's no end to it.
Right.
It's just like this crazy whirlwind dream that you're living in, just trying to get from one moment to the next. And I thought it was neat in that moment that by that second year, the three of them did have something that bonded them, and that the kids all had each other too. So they not only had the kids in common that were very close in age, but they had this experience that they were sharing together of rearing the kids. But it also stuck out to me of, oh, poor Janelle for that first year. As rotten as everything had been this whole time, and then on top of it, you're a new mom, and she was working. She went back to work, and she's trying to. I'm sure the woman lived on very little sleep, and that makes you cranky and angry. And then when people are flitting around and laughing and joking and not getting it, it had to have been one of the hardest years of her life. So I was grateful as it went on that they both got pregnant, they both had kids, they both then understood. And from there, it seemed like from that point on is when things really started to smooth out on their relationship, that they really started to understand and get each other. But yeah, so yeah, my whole emotions flipped when I was reading that, thinking, oh, I remember so well. I kind of remember it's sort of all a fog, but I just remember being so difficult and going, okay, I get it now. I understand. And for her to have people not helping and not contributing and not getting it and laughing, probably being loud and giggling when Logan was trying to sleep or she was trying to take a nap, I just thought, oh no. So, and then I got that whole flip side of, oh yay, they all get each other now.
Yeah. It's not y'all in the mix together.
Yeah.
You're in the army now, as they say.
Yes.
But I do think that there was also a point where it says that when they were talking about going back to Cody leaving, and one of the things that really struck me was Cody was leaving to go on these trips. Like we're talking about Cody going away on these work trips, and he's taking Meri with him. One of the times that he was doing that was when Janelle was pregnant. So it amazes me that Janelle is very good about, or she's consistent with complimenting Cody about being an active, involved parent, and et cetera, et cetera. One of the things that really struck me is that one of the benefits to having sister wives is that if you have to go out of town for work, you would have a sister wife who could be home in your stead with your pregnant wife. So if something were to happen, if there was an emergency, you had somebody who was in the household who could help to take care of her, at least help to bridge the gap between you getting from wherever you were back home. And that way she wouldn't have to be alone. But they had no problem with leaving. And one of the things that happened during one of these times where Meri was kind of showing, I guess, her colors. Like this is where the dark side of Meri kind of came in. Janelle is pregnant. Meri and Janelle were having difficulty, probably because Janelle had entered into her marriage, and then she turned around and got pregnant where Meri couldn't get pregnant.
Yeah.
So she said, she was crying because she went with a friend to get makeup done. Then all of a sudden, Meri, because she can't criticize Janelle on being married to Cody or being pregnant, especially when Cody's happy about the pregnancy, she started giving her jabs about the makeup. And she said that she broke down crying and said, as I was crying, I was being, she felt like Meri going away with Cody, she felt like she was being left behind. Meri began to ridicule the makeup I was wearing. This was the final straw after all the passive-aggressive behavior and snide remarks I had been dealing with for so many months. I completely lost it. I felt as if I was on the verge of a complete nervous breakdown. Cody was on his way to the door when I stopped him. There were tears running down my face. I just need to know that you love me, I said. A strange expression across Cody's face. I felt as if he was going to laugh, not out of cruelty, but out of relief. Of course I love you, he said. That's all I need to hear, I told him. That's it? Cody, that's it? Cody said. That's all I need to say. Uh, and from that point, it was like Cody had a lot of learning to do. His father's mother and Mary's parents had contributed their ideas, and he had to find his own way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But there was a couple things there. First thing, we talked about Mary's uh, attitude towards Janelle and how the cruel nature of it, the lack of consideration, the lack of compassion for Janelle's situation and scenario. It also opened the door, at least for me, when Cody came in and Janelle was, crying and tell me that you love me. And she gave him the easy out of saying, of course I love you. And she said, that's all I need to hear now. Everything is okay. That set the groundwork for later that he thought all his problems could be solved with a quick statement or an affirmation. That he thought that he could just simply say, I love you, and then everything would be fine.
Yeah.
Which later we see he tries to do and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Yeah. I also found it interesting that here's a man young with his beautiful pregnant wife carrying his first child, emotional. He had to have known about the fight. Either he was there or he heard about it, because there's no way he'd be like, well, why are you crying? We didn't get that part of the story, but he obviously knew what went down between them. He's leaving with Meri, and it's very clear that he never comforted her. He never gave her a hug. He said hello. Like, his inability to emotionally connect with these women, he's just like, well, off on the trip. Meri, you ready to go? Janelle, you're going to be all right? Like, there was no, she's like, just tell me that you love me. Oh, that's all I had to do? Like, how about, Cody, you just ask, what can I do in this situation? He's so dense that it's shocking as I was reading that. And I'm like, and then he's all relieved. Oh, that's all I had to need to say. Oh, okay. It's just like, okay. How basic are you, Cody? So slow on the uptake. And like you said, he probably thought, oh, I learned everything I need to know in life now. That's all I have to say going forward. And that doesn't work out for him so well. Poor Janelle.
Yeah, and because even with that, like, I think that there's a part of his approach to a lot of the family, I think, relied on his inability to understand the depth of their relationships, because you see it actually. You really see it in the early stages in Seeking Sister Wives. There's a guy named Garrett Merrifield. He does pretty much the same thing. He doesn't want to have the deep conversations with these ladies about their emotional issues or things that are going on with them. Instead, he wants the other wives to tend to the wives when it comes to their emotions. He just wants to be there as the husband, as the leader, as the person in the family, and actually, in Garrett's case, the person who receives sexual benefit from having these ladies around. You just see it in those early stages. That's kind of why I dig that particular show.
There's a lot of similarities between the two of them. Right. It's crazy.
Right. But I think it's just kind of the way, the mentality or the approach you would have to have in order to think that you could do it. This type of relationship. Like, I think it's kind of built into the system that you have to have certain attributes as a personality to think that you could do it. And I think that that's where Cody finds himself at. When he deals with these ladies, he doesn't know how to meet them where they are. Instead, he wants to, let's get to the place of no problems. Let's get past the problem part of it. So you said what you had to say. Now that you said it, it's done. Let's move on. Yeah. You know what I mean? As opposed to really dealing with it. And then, of course, having different wives and having different locations for each one of those wives. When you do have a complication or an issue or a problem, you get to, okay, whoa, you look like you're upset. So I'm going to go over to Janelle's house while you work out your problems. And he gets that kind of escapism.
That's a classic characteristic of narcissists, isn't it? The inability to really connect and see somebody else's perspective on something. They can only see it through the lens of their own world.
Right. Yeah. Even talking about like the ease in which Cody thought a lot of these relationships could be maintained by simply giving a statement. There is another point where later where we find out that Janelle actually left the family.
Mm-hmm.
And in that commentary, it's on 124. It says, whenever I expressed my grievances, Cody would always remind me, I'm committed. I'm not going anywhere. I knew he never would. Like, so that's just one of the things. They have a problem. Girl, I'm committed. I'm not going anywhere, which actually plays in later on when Robin and Christine and Meri and Janelle talk about leaving the family. And you say to yourself, well, how is it that he thinks that they're going to keep contributing financially to the family if he's not paying any attention to them? Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what was required for them to be in the family.
Right.
They're committed. They're not going anywhere. No matter how bad the family treats you, no matter what goes on, you're going to continue to give to the family.
Yeah.
But he goes on to say, during the 8th year of our, or Janelle says, during the 8th year of our marriage, I gave birth to my 5th child, Gabriel. Afterwards, I was taken to a horrible postpartum depression. I felt overwhelmed by having had so many children so quick in succession, and felt seriously depressed. And amen to that, sister. And
Yeah.
felt seriously depressed at our lack of financial means. I knew I was miserable, but had no idea how to fix the situation.
Mm-hmm.
She had a nasty fight with Meri, and she told Cody she was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And it when she left that night, I got into the car and drove to my mother's house. The next morning, Cody picked me up to run errands with him. While he was driving, he nonchalantly asked me, "So are you better now?" So you better now? You be tripping.
Oh my goodness. Every single person who read that line wanted to just rip the book apart at that point. Like, really? She left her kids. She picked up and just walked out and went to mom and dad. That's how upset she was. I need to go somewhere else. And he picks her up from there because you better now. Just sleep it off.
Right.
Everything's okay. Oh, Cody.
So you talk to your mom, right? She told you got to stay.
Right.
That's what that felt like. You talk to your mom. Your mom told you had to stay with me, right? So we're over this.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes on to say, his failure to understand how low I felt was a slap in the face. Part of me wanted to scream, and part of me wanted to laugh at his ignorance and his hopefulness that everything had become better overnight. That afternoon, I bundled all my kids into the car and took them to my mom's. I had reached rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was crazy in the sense that I get where she was. Like, that is a lot. Like, especially if you're a person who worries about finances and where you are financially and your positioning. That's a lot. Like, just having kid after kid after kid after kid, and then him just coming in and treating you any old kind of way. You catching hell at home, you catching hell at work. You have a bunch of kids, you got a bunch of bills that you can't pay, and then this dude going crazy. And as soon as you express that you have a problem, he look you in the face like, "All right, you better now. You got it all out. I don't understand what the problem is." Like, wow. So.
And then you mix postpartum depression on top of that. And I experienced postpartum depression. And let me tell you, it was, in some ways, I say it's one of the best things that happened to me because it helps me understand people who are going through mental health struggles because no one in our family ever had, and I hadn't either. Whoa, that is some serious stuff. And to feel like you don't even want to pick up your baby, like you want to do nothing. It's like your whole world is black around you and and there's no getting out of it. Like there's no out. It's just this like sheet that got pulled over your head. It's very hard to describe, but going through it, the sympathy I have for people who struggle with depression now is real because it was such a low point. And to match that up with being in this little trailer with all these kids and 2 other moms and a husband who's not getting it and you're feeling all that, and you're forcing yourself to get up and go to work and perform every day on top of it and come back. And then the back of your mind on top of it is all the financial struggles, and knowing that all these financial struggles are not your responsibility. You have the weight of the world on your shoulder because you're really supporting everybody right now. Cody's not earning much. We have no idea what's happening with Meri. Christine's watching the kids, so that's understandable that she wasn't working at the time. But like, when I read that, like my heart I can see how she got to the point of, I need to do something drastic here. And completely sever myself. That being said, in terms of being in that trailer, a little bit before that, on that same page, she said, for the first decade of my marriage, I lived with either Meri or Christine. Now, we know that after Christine came into the marriage, Janelle said that when she went, she got an apartment for a few months. So it wasn't a house. She didn't like move out. She got an apartment for a few months to kind of like get acclimated with Cody, because, you know, it was a trailer and there was a new marriage, and like, I'll come back after I work through stuff. And so for a decade, they were in that trailer, and she said, I lived with either Meri or Christine. Our house was crowded and paying the bills was always a challenge. We never had enough money, no matter how hard we worked. So does that mean that Cody would be with one wife in one bedroom, Meri and Christine or two other wives would be together in another bedroom, and then all the kids were in the other one? Is that how they handled it? Because how else? I don't know how else to break that down. I know there was a period of time when, you know, after, this is before Janelle left. After Janelle left is when there was the properties that they had on the farm, and they had the two houses nearby for, I don't know. I'm a little, well, there's no timelines where you have to like figure it all out on your own throughout this. So I was wondering, am I missing something? Did they have the separate houses before Janelle left? But then she said they were all together in that house when she left, and she couldn't take it anymore. So that makes me think that for a decade they lived in the trailer with the three of them. Now, which is just crazy.
They might have, maybe by that time they had a 3-bedroom, and that would have put them in the 3-bedroom with all the kids. Like, you'd be with all your children in your particular room or your particular space, I would like imagine.
A 3-bedroom house somewhere?
Right, maybe.
So what did she mean by, I lived with either Meri or Christine? Or does that mean in the 3-bedroom? That was like up near, closer like to the second paragraph of 124. She did call it a house, but they called the trailer a house too. So that's where I also get confused. For much of the first decade of my marriage, I lived with either Meri or Christine. Our house was crowded. And then during the 8th years, when she gave birth to Gabriel, had the postpartum.
Because I thought that Christine had her own place. So maybe Janelle was like shuttling between Meri and Christine's houses.
Well, at some point they were all together. Earlier in this chapter, it said Christine got an apartment after she married in for a few months. So the implication I got from that is then she came back. So she was in the trailer, and they were in the trailer at one point, because there's a video clip. I actually have it. I know because I just edited it into the last video I did, where Janelle on the show said it was really crazy when we first got married. All 3 of us were living in a 3-bedroom trailer, which is not ideal for a new marriage. I just want to know, since she left and he went to pick her up, so she had a fight with Meri at this time and she picked up and left. Were they still in that trailer? Or, I mean, now it could be we're piecing things together, because there's another part further back where we're talking all about Logan being born, and literally the next paragraph, with no transition whatsoever, we're referring to what life was like when she had like already 5 kids. So
Right.
we could be just jumping around here.
Well, I think that there has to be a consideration of the fact that uh, the they were they were there was a lot of instability with the
Mm,
family. So from what I understand, they moved around a lot. So I
that's
wouldn't
true.
assume that they were in a trailer for 10 years because
That's a
they
good
were
point.
constantly
Didn't they say
bouncing around.
something like they had like in their first 20 years of marriage, they stayed in like 30 different, like they had like
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah,
I remember hearing some crazy number of different homes that they kept moving to. So yeah, they probably just didn't mention them all in here. Maybe they were in something else. But even at that, in a 3-bedroom with that many kids,
yeah. That's insane. That's insane. Well, yeah, yeah. That's
or at this
insane.
point, like I said, who knows? It's hard to keep track of this book.
Yeah, because
What a fool of me to try to make sense of this and create a timeline in my head. See, I'm a left brain person. I want it logically to make
right.
sense. And so this book is like, I like bang my head against it when I read it because I'm like, what are we talking about right now?
Because they don't want you to know. Like
No,
that's
I
part of
think
it too.
you're
They can
right. I
tell
think
you
there's
nothing.
part of it is like you can couch and hide a lot of stuff by just mixing a whole bunch of information in there without any clear timelines because then nobody can catch you on it,
Nail
you
you
know?
down. Right,
Yeah.
right. They can't nail you down. Um, yeah. Please like and subscribe. Jenny and James. Yes, please, please.
Yes.
Um,
Thanks, Lynn.
thanks, school. Oh, so there was an interesting part that she actually started talking about after she left the family.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 statements that really stuck out to me. On 125,
Mm-hmm.
third paragraph down, she says that for several years, I'd had the means to move out and into my own place if I'd been willing to turn my back on contributing financially to the family, but I wasn't. And I think that that speaks directly to the fact that when you look at uh, how the financial bearings of the family was laid out,
Mm-hmm.
Mary and Christine, because earlier in the chapter, she talked about how Mary and Christine were stay-at-home moms and they did the homeschooling, which means that Janelle and Cody were the breadwinners for the Brown family. And I've always held the position, especially when Robbie came into the family. And this is just fan fiction. This is fan intuition, if you will. That Janelle was actually the chief breadwinner of the Brown family.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that Janelle has always had and maintained better financial employment, better employment than Cody did. But because of Cody's pride and everything else that went into the show and him being on television and not willing to admit that he's being taken care of by his wife, especially as he's bringing in additional wives and additional burdens into the family
Mm-hmm.
that he's already not taken care of. I think that that was kind of downplayed. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that Janelle has always been a main contributor to the Brown family finances, which
Yeah.
again speaks volumes when you take into account that of the 5 adults, she was the one that walked away with the least amount
Yes.
of financial wherewithal.
Yeah.
That hurts a little bit, and
Yeah.
that's what I felt when I saw her crying, and she said, all this time I realize now that I have nothing, and that's
Mm-hmm.
the part that because I always suspected this. So when she said that, that's what really rung out to me is that as much as she gave to this family,
Mm-hmm.
she realizes now that it was all for naught because she's
Yeah.
the one with nothing left.
Yeah. Cashed in her 401k, gave inheritance money, all of it. And then her salary, like
Mhm.
she funded a lot for that family. The sale
Right.
of her house didn't a part of her house, wasn't it her house and Mary's house went into the down payment for Robin's house to be
Yeah.
built in Coyote Pass. Yeah, like everything she
Well,
had in
purchase
her
a
name.
Coyote Pass and that house. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Which is
And
actually ironic. If you think about it, they were the main contributors who gave the ability for them to purchase Coyote Pass to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
Because Robin, I don't think she had a whole lot of money between the three wives. Christine gave a good big chunk of money.
Mm-hmm.
Mary gave a good chunk of money, and Janelle gave a good chunk of money for the down payment for them to be able to buy Coyote Pass. And so for them to turn around and try to ice them out completely is even more of a smack in the face.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it makes me sick.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, you could have had my ass out there on the side of no mountain telling me a bunch of crazy stuff. Him as smoking the city, Jack.
So Janelle doesn't end up going back at all, right? She ends up buying a house, buying a car. But it seems like I think she is still, so she must have had a pretty good job.
Right.
Still helping support, which is interesting because when she was living there, they didn't have any money. So that tells me that everybody was spending her money in other ways.
Right.
Because now all of a sudden she's away from there. You know, she's still giving them money because she believes in it. And she said that, you know, I'm going to take this time apart, but I'm still part of the family and the kids are still, you know, we're still a family. I just needed my space. So and you just know Janelle and her character and what she believes in the polygamy and in this plural marriage philosophy, that she was probably still contributing on some level to that, but also paying for her house and her own car. It just makes me think of, and Robin wasn't even there yet to take all the money and spend it frivolously. But I wouldn't be surprised if Cody did.
Right. Well, because if you look at it, I think that the subtle difference, because what we're referring to is soon after I got my own house, I made one of the most important decisions of my life. I went back to school and got a degree in accounting. Getting a degree changed my world. And I think that with that, her being able to get the degree may have opened the door for opportunities where she could have increased her finances.
Yeah.
But in the short-term interim between the transitionary period where she leaves the house, the big house where she's living with the Brown family, and they're broke and they're trying to figure stuff out and they're struggling financially, and most of their arguments have to do with money. And then she goes off and she gets a house, her car, she enrolls herself into college, and she's able to pay for everything, and she's still having money to contribute back. I think the subtle difference might very well be the simple notion that when she was living with the Browns, she was turning her check over to Cody. And then when she moves out, she takes her own check and she's still giving them money and she's still helping out, but she's controlling the faucet. So she's determining how much of her check is being sent away. And kind of like she found herself in that situation with Robin and Cody in later years, where they had this big Brown family, was it Cody Brown Entertainment LLC business, where they would take their entire TLC check and put it in that account. And then all of a sudden that money would get sucked up and turn up missing. When you have, you know, if he has access to that money, you know, I talk to my daughter all the time. Like, I'm trying to give her that at least my best interpretation of financial understanding. I try to give her that financial education. And in doing so, one of the things that I've started trying to impress upon her is that when you have a savings account, checking account, especially with them using the little plastic cards, the MAC cards, as opposed to cash, excuse me, that when you're out doing that, it's very easy for you to lose track of how much money you have. If you're paying, like if you have cash in your wallet, hard cash, if you start out with $100, you go out, you get something to eat, that's $20. You down to $4.20s now. You know what I mean? And you're watching your money decrease. Whereas if you have that MAC card, you just swiping and swiping and swiping. Hell, half the time you don't even have the total you had on the card, so you don't know what you have. And it's the twos and fews that really impact your credit, that will impact your bank account. It's the $5 lunches when you, or the $10 lunches when you go after during work. You hit the McDonald's or a fast food restaurant. It's the $5 lattes from Starbucks that you don't realize that's running your card up.
Yeah.
And I think that with Cody and them, if they have access to the money, they just out. Meri and Cody want to go out of town. They have access to Janelle's money. They just go out of town. It's no big deal. It's just one weekend. And then one weekend turns into two when he takes Christine out. And then all of a sudden, out those 2 weekends, you might have spent $200. And you just don't realize like how much you're impacted. But if Janelle actually has control of her money, she might be like, yeah, we're not doing that. The bills are, $700 for my contribution to help you pay the mortgage and help you pay, or $1,000 to help you pay for these little odds and ends around the house. Here you go. And all of a sudden it's like, wow, I still have this whole pot of money left.
Yeah. Yeah. Could very well be.
That might be where it's going. Yeah.
Or being devil's advocate, because she had said, however, all right. So in that paragraph, she said, if I'd been willing to turn my back on contributing financially to the family, but I wasn't. All right. So she was clear, like, this is how, well, I guess I should read the sentence. For several years, I had the means to move out and get my own place if I had been willing to turn my back on contributing financially to the family, but I wasn't. So then it goes on about she believed in living, sticking it out and contributing all together and blah, 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 blah. But then the very beginning of the next paragraph, she says, however, after that fight with Meri, I'd had enough. And I'm like, does that, however, contradict that paragraph before where she said, if I would have been willing to turn my back on the family financially, then I could have, but I wouldn't do that. Because then, however, I had that fight with Meri. My kids and I stayed with my mom for several months. I found my own place, my job. So maybe, on the other hand, and I don't think this, but it's possible just because of the way she worded it, it's possible that she did decide, listen, I'm taking my toys and I'm leaving. I still believe we're a family. I'm still having the kids get together. I'm still going to give you money to watch the kids, because Christine's still going to watch them. I'm going to drive that 30 minutes every day to drop them off and 30 minutes back to go to work and participate in all of that. But you're all going to have to figure out how to pay what you need for the rest of this. And really that just fell on Meri's shoulders because Christine was watching the children and Cody couldn't make any money, which is why he then found the job in Utah. So it could just be he was forced into getting another job.
I had thought about that, and I kind of took a slightly different tack.
Okay.
And I think that when he found a job in Utah, just looking at it, and I've always held this thing, like maybe it's my prejudice in going and reading it, but I always kind of held a position that when you're a guy like I think Cody is, and you have a wife that's doing well financially, and you are not, then there are certain guys who will try to take you out of that position or out of that opportunity because they can't stand to see you do better than they are. And story time. When I was a young guy, I had a job and I was working with this guy, and he worked for me. I was a supervisor at the time, and we were having a conversation, and he was telling me about, I was young, he was young as well, and he was telling me about a girl he was dating and how she had an opportunity to go to college. She was about to graduate high school. She was going to go away to college, and she was going to get this degree, and that's something that she always wanted to pursue. And he loved her, and he didn't want her to leave. So he had concocted in his mind, and he had ran it past me as kind of a side thing, that he was going to try to get her pregnant so that she couldn't go. So that was his way of trying to rob her of that opportunity. And I went crazy. What are you talking about, man? That's ridiculous. Why would you do that to her? Especially if you say you care about her, why would you do that to her intentionally so that you could steal her dream from her? And so we had a whole conversation about it. He eventually didn't do it, which I was happy about. But it showed me that there are guys out there who will try to take that position where if they don't want to see you achieve a certain level of success. They don't want to see you take advantage of certain opportunities. They will try to put roadblocks or obstacles in your way. The easy way to do that is make you pregnant or whatever the case would be to tie you to him so that you can't go out and pursue those things for yourself. Now, with that being said, I can see a scenario where Cody is looking at Janelle. Here she is. She went out. She's always been a worker, always had and maintained a better job than he had, probably always made more money than him. She leaves him. She goes out and she doesn't need him financially. She goes get a house. She gets a car. She gets herself enrolled in school. She graduates from college. That opens her up for more opportunities where she can get an even better job. Now her career is about to take off. And he's looking at it from a perspective of, I'm barely selling 2 billboards every 3 months. And so I found this job that is required that you leave your job and come with me and we'll start all over. And I think that might, like, I'm not saying that what you're saying isn't a part of it, but I think that another part of it might very well be he's taking it as an opportunity for him to be able to get some money for himself or get some, steal some of her shine to slow her down.
Yeah. Put himself back up at the top of the chain.
Right.
Yeah,
so
that could very
we'll
well
start
be.
over again.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like that kid that you play in a board game, you sweep all the pieces off.
Yeah. New game. Whoops, I bumped the board. I thought it was interesting that he was there for a whole year before finding the Lehigh house, which was the carrot dangling. Yeah, they got her to go ahead and come over there. Like, I mean, I wonder if at first he just thought, once I leave, she'll follow. And then a year later, she's not there.
Well, he said that. If you recall, there was a point. Just real quick. Rosalinda Davis, $4.99 super sticker. Thank you, Rosalinda. Appreciate you. He had said earlier, if you recall, GG. He said earlier, if you recall, that when he was sitting with his friend Brett and Janelle's trainer, who I don't think was really his friend, I just think it was somebody that show was like, you need to have another guy there. And he was sitting with Brett and his friend. He went jump off the building. There was that episode. And he was saying, yeah, there was a time when Janelle wanted to stay. And then I decided that we were going to move. So you know what I did? I didn't argue with her. I led. And that's what I did. I just led. And then she had to pack up her stuff and she followed me because I led. And that's how he presented it to his friends. This is the incident that he's talking about. And in that incident, like you said, you were gone for a year, dog, and she didn't come follow you. She didn't come pick me. She was living her life. She was living her best life. Out there with her house, her car, and doing everything she needed to do. What was also funny to me was that, like you said, this is when he presented the whole Lehigh house as an opportunity. I found a house that has has 7 bedrooms and it's 3 apartments and it's gonna be wonderful. It's laid out where you can all have your own privacy, blah, 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 blah. The thing that stuck out to me, because I was thinking about the financial part of it, is that it doesn't matter if you found a house if you can't afford to buy it.
Right.
Let me say that one more again. It doesn't matter if you found a house if you can't afford the down payment without Janelle showing up. So technically, he didn't say, I bought a house and I want you to move down here and be with the family. I found a listing for a house that we could purchase, which most likely required her, if she purchased the house that she was living in, for her to sell her house and then purchase the house in Lehigh. Then I thought to myself, if you take that a step further, what does that sound like? Isn't that very familiar to the situation that we saw later in Sister Wives, where they were living in those houses in Las Vegas, and in order for them to purchase the Coyote Pass property and eventually purchase Robin's property, what needed to happen? Robin or Cody, or I'm saying everybody but the true players, Janelle, Christine, and Meri had to sell their houses so
Mhm.
that Cody could make his Arizona dreams come true. Because had they not sold their houses, I don't think they could have afforded to buy not only Coyote Pass, but they damn sure would have been able to afford the down payment on Robin's house.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
what do you think about that, my little?
Yeah, yeah. History repeats itself, doesn't it?
Right, right.
Um, Poor Janelle, she fell for that. And you're absolutely right. There is no way they saved up enough money for a deposit on that house or a down payment on that house. There's absolutely no way. So they definitely needed Janelle. And the way he must have sweet talked her, all those times we saw him sweet talking Mary to get her to go to Coyote Pass and sweet talking, like the sweet talking and the romance that he did. And Janelle was susceptible to that. She says she doesn't like lovey-dovey things. I think she doesn't like to express lovey-dovey things. I think as a woman, you love to receive lovey-dovey, even if you're not one that overtly wants to be touchy-feely, lovey-dovey, and say sweet things. You definitely like to receive it. So I think that he just sweet-talked her right away into coming back and being a part of this, which probably meant she was paying the entire down payment.
Right. She was putting the bill for it.
Yes, and it makes me sad that she let him dupe her twice.
Right.
I'm like,
she played by the rules.
better. You know better.
Right. And the crazy part about it is two things. First thing, in recession. The first thing or second thing, ironically, she probably had that same conversation with her two daughters, with both Savannah and with her older daughter.
Maddie.
Maddie, Madison. I know she had those conversations. Make sure you're not relying on a man. A man is not a plan. Make sure you have your own stuff. Make sure you're safe and secure in your own, and you have your own thing going on, so you can take care of yourself. And meanwhile, she's doing the exact opposite. It also occurs to me that something that you said, as far as her not being interested in the romantic part, PDAs and hourly romantic part. There was a portion earlier on that I was going to point out. I decided to skip it, but where she talked about being a guest in the house, and she said that she would sit there and watch movies with Meri and Cody early on in their marriage, and she would sit on one couch, Cody, or sit in a chair. Cody and Meri would be huggle buggled up, watching a movie together as a couple. I think part of the reason why Janelle didn't express a lot of outward emotion or PDAs was because that's how she came into the relationship, and that's how she was trained within the relationship. There wasn't room for her to be able to express herself physically with her husband because Meri had taken that position and she was so jealous of the situation.
That's a good point. She was almost trained into that behavior.
Right.
She learned early on and then accepted it because she is a little bit more intellectual or cerebral in her way. So she probably just said, because that happens to all of us. Somebody puts a label on you and they say it enough. And then you start to believe, well, yeah, I guess I am that way. And then you just embrace and embody whatever their characteristic is. Could be for the positive, but oftentimes is a negative thing. So that's a really good point, James. I never thought of the fact that maybe initially she would have really enjoyed a lot of PDA, but the opportunity simply wasn't there at all because Meri and Cody were at the other end of the couch, snuggled up together. So she just kind of accepted where she was. And then, because she did say they grew into it over the years.
Right.
Yeah, that's
and
a good
even because even kind of a one end to what you just said, if you look at what she said as far as I'm a people pleaser, I'm a person that likes to make everybody happy so that we don't have conflicts in the situation. Part of her pleasing Meri in that situation and avoiding conflict is for her to make sure that she's not hugging, kissing, and showing displays of affection to Cody in front of her or publicly. So I think that might just be the one end. I highlight Virgo Earth Angel Royalty. Hello. I think Janelle did like PDA because she's the lady in the streets and blah, blah, blah. But
Yeah, she
oh,
is.
right. I wanted to highlight that, and because somebody had said something to me a while ago, like, "Why do you keep saying that about Janelle? Why do you keep saying that about Janelle?" I, I'll say it this way: one of the things that tickles me the most about saying that and giving her that title and giving her that praise is something that she said, because I've always, I guess, instinctually I felt this,
Mm,
that she felt a sense of insecurity in her appearance
yeah.
and by default, possibly her sexuality later on,
Hmm.
and not being viewed as that sexual being that
Hmm.
she is because of she felt reserved because of the way she looked. So
Hmm.
I want to take every opportunity I had to give her that hands off and that hats off and that big salute and say that you are that person. Because one of the hurtful things to me is for when people don't look at you as though like look at you like your parts don't work. Right?
Right.
There's something wrong with you. Like all of a sudden, yeah, you're cool, but I don't see you as that type of
Hmm.
person. It strips away part of who you are.
Hmm.
She's a woman with 6 kids. Obviously, Cody was going over there enough where he made 6 babies. I'm
That's
just saying.
right.
So things were
Yeah.
happening. Like she has 6 kids, things were happening, and we
Hmm.
have 6 receipts that
Hmm.
things were going on in the boudoir.
Hmm.
And I want to give her that credit, particularly because not only may she feel some kind of deficiency in how she approaches it, but the fact that she was surrounded by other people who made her feel that way.
Mm.
And I'm speaking directly to the clip that we showed earlier. We talked about Robin saying things like, "Oh, stretch marks, overweight, weight gain, et
Hmm.
cetera," and try to take that away from her. So I want to do what I can to give it back to her. That's the reason why I always profess that or express it as heavily as I
In my opinion, too, Janelle is the most beautiful of the four. I mean, she
do.
is striking. When they all go and they all have everything's equal amongst them, they all get their professional makeup done. And then you sit there and then you see the heads. And Janelle, I think in her wedding picture in that too, she's a gorgeous girl. Like, which makes me
Right.
sad that she does have those insecurities because, yeah, she's beautiful.
Yeah. And you know what? And as crazy as it is, hats off to Janelle because I've seen recent pictures of Janelle. And Janelle has undergone like each one of the women, they've started doing a lot of self-care. So
A lot of
I want
glow
to make
ups
sure I
happening.
acknowledge them
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of the work that they're doing because they're doing a lot of work. It's not
Mhm,
easy for you to diet and exercise and all that. And
mhm,
these ladies are looking phenomenal. They are
mhm,
looking phenomenal. Janelle is
mhm,
looking amazing. And I know Cody he's eating his heart out, Jack. He's
mhm,
going bananas. He's
mhm,
like, everybody leave me. All of a sudden they cover girl models. What the hell? Like
mhm.
it just got serious for my man. So hats off to the ladies for doing things. And it's not even so much they're trying to look good for somebody else. I'm sure they don't give a damn what I think. But I acknowledge the fact that they're putting in the time, energy, and effort into themselves and that investment
Mhm,
into themselves to make themselves
mhm.
happy. And if you happy big, then be big. If you want to be small, but make sure that you're doing it to make yourself feel better about you.
Yeah,
And if that gives you peace of mind, and cool. And
yeah,
Janelle was actually one of the people that said that she started finding peace in working out and
yeah,
going to the gym.
yeah, I love
It was
that.
very
I love
sweet.
that about her, and she's such an outdoorsy person anyway. I mean, she's such an interesting person, which is what also makes her that much more beautiful, and she has such a sweet disposition about her. But, like, she's just interesting. Her fascination with nature and gardening, her fascination with Native American culture, and researching that. She just has hobbies, she has interests. She's a interesting person, of all of all of them, and when you put them all together, I mean, maybe the other ones have that too and it just never came out on the show, but I just find her the most fascinating, and every time I find another little thing that she's interested in and addicted to, it just makes me giggle. I wish she would
Right.
sell it her on her website. I wish she would sell swag because I really want to buy a Striving with Janelle sweatshirt or t-shirt or something, but there's nothing.
Mhm.
She
Right.
had
Right.
she was wearing one at Christmas time, and when she was in that apartment, the small like cottage like college town apartment with the little Christmas tree. She had a Striving with Janelle t-shirt on. Then I thought for sure. No, I went to the website again just a couple weeks ago just to look. Nope, no merch.
There you go. Janelle gets some merch up. They got
yes, Janelle, please, somebody reach out to Janelle who knows Janelle and tell her she can make a mint if she would sell some merch. That's the merch I want to buy. I want a Janelle Striving with Janelle shirt. That's what I want. I probably have to like buy the consultation to get it.
Right.
For $500, she will consult with me on my life, and I'll do it just for the t-shirt.
Right. $500, most expensive t-shirt ever. Usually it's Gucci. Rosalind Davis. Robin purchased a large t-shirt for Janelle for a marathon. Robin was a very mean girl. Yeah. Actually, the meaner part of that was that at the time, Janelle said that she was at her heaviest. And Robin bought that large t-shirt in hopes, and this is my opinion, Robin bought that large t-shirt in hopes that that shirt was going to be too small and make Janelle feel worse. It's one thing to buy a large for somebody who's a medium as a shot. Oh, I thought you were bigger. It's another thing for you to buy somebody something that's already big and they're bigger than that. And that, you know what I mean? They don't fit that shirt. But she put that shirt on and she looked really nice in that shirt.
She did, didn't she? She rocked it. That was like right back at you, Robin. Look at me.
She filled the shirt out. Filled the shirt out. Then all of a sudden, Robin's like, oh, yeah, you look nice. And even though I'm modest normally, I'm going to go ahead and wear it. Are you? Oh, yay. Good for you. Yeah. Again, that's one of those things that I was referring to earlier, like those little type shots. Yep. I like to give Janelle some credit and some credence and saying, look, you know what I mean? And somebody had written a thing in here. I can't find it. I apologize to whoever wrote it. Talking about Robin didn't understand. And this is the weird part, I think, between Robin and possibly even Cody. And even some folks don't understand necessarily that it's not necessarily about how you look, but how you carry yourself. I think I talked about it last week. I know I said something about it last week.
Yeah.
But just to emphasize that point, is how you carry yourself. And you don't have to wear, you know, this is one of the things that I always told my daughter when she was coming up. Like, you don't have to wear revealing clothes in order for you to get men's attention. Because when push comes down to shove, wearing clothes that are like hyper revealing and all that, yes, guys will pay attention to you, but it doesn't necessarily get you the type of attention that you want from the guys that you're trying to attract. So yeah, guys will look at you, and half the guys who will wind up talking to you, just as an aside, half the guys who will wind up trying to talk to you when you're dressed a certain kind of way aren't guys that you really want talking to you. And the guys that you do want talking to you won't talk to you. Or kind of pass by it. So you just want to kind of take that into account. But at the same time, wear your style. You feel comfortable. That's another big thing of it too. Some outfits you just gotta have that attitude to pull it the hell off. Like even with that t-shirt, when she put that t-shirt on, she was working hard, she was dieting, she was exercising, doing everything she was supposed to do. So when she put that t-shirt on, she wasn't meek, mild, and shying away. She was standing out there like, look, check me out. Look at me now. And I think that attitude is what helped pull that t-shirt off too. Yeah. It wasn't just the figure, it's the attitude.
And Sarah marked in here too. It's absolutely right. Cody's eyes were bugging out of his head when Janelle, he did. I mean, he had that little smile on his face. He was checking her out. He's like, yeah, because it showed all her curves. You know, she wears big stuff, so you can't really see it. Like, she put that t-shirt on, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, she do this more often.
Well, you know what was ironic too is not to belabor too much, but that was also around the time that Cody said that he never felt more attracted to Janelle during that time period. That's when they were supposed to like reinvigorating their relationship. And in fact, that was the relationship that Robin was talking about. I remember Vegas when she was sitting on Christine's porch. I remember Vegas. You and Cody was having the best relationship ever. Yeah, because Cody was way more attracted to her than, you know what I mean, at that time.
Yeah.
that's what he valued it. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of goes to the idea that with his relationship with Robin, he values the superfluous or the outward veneer of a person as opposed to valuing the contributions that they were making. Because at the end of the day, Janelle was who she was, and she was contributing what she was contributing to the relationship the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't really find her attractive or appealing until outwardly she looked a certain way, or she got back to looking a certain way.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, Cody's
She
very
always was.
superficial. I mean, in the beginning of the book, when he was like the girl, that's all he said about the teenage girl when he was attracted to her, and then that's what he said about Christine too. That he thought he was attracted to her. He thought she was cute and bubbly, and then all of a sudden he kind of looked over and thought, "Ooh, she's kind of chubby and eating sort of sloppy," and all of a sudden, I don't think I can marry her. You know, it's just sort of like, because all of a sudden she's eating nachos in a funny way. And so now you're looking at her as chubby. I mean, it's just the amount of superficiality that comes out of his mouth, which makes sense because he's so obsessed with his own looks and so delusional about him. The number of times he refers to his 6-pack abs, or that his, you know, like he's been doing that for a long time. The whole 6-pack ab thing was really just in the most recent seasons, but you can track it all the way back to when he, you know, all his flexing and everything he's doing with his dad bod. And he thinks he looks amazing. Maybe that's why he wants to demand so much of them, because he has a delusional view of what he actually looks like himself. Although recently he doesn't have as much of a dad bod, but I think that's because he's on, personally, my opinion, I know nothing of fact, but based on all the nutrition bottles and pills and all that on the counter and his level of anger that he has achieved this year, and he has slimmed down, I feel like he probably has a little steroid helping him out right now. That it's not just his sheer working out at the gym that's assisting him. I mean, he needs to pull back on that a little bit, and then maybe the anger will come down a little bit too.
And that's the thing too. Like a lot of it is, you know, first and foremost, I go to the gym a lot. Like I would, story time. When I was a young guy, I would go to the gym. I was part of the Breakfast Club. I've been to several gyms that, you know, members of gyms, multiple gyms at the same time, all that. So I have a long history in it. And I knew guys who were, some of the gyms I went to were like meat house gyms, grindhouse gyms, where it was like a lot of bodybuilders would show up. And these guys look amazing. And there was a lot of, I don't know if I can say roll it, but there was a lot of pharmaceutical assistants in some of these places. And one of the things, like there was guys who would, you know, train, and oh wow, a guy had asked if I wanted to do it. Yeah, man, you want to train with me? I can get you on the stage and you can win some stuff and blah blah blah, and I'll put you on the whole thing. No, I'm good, because it never appealed to me. Because when you start messing around with hormones, it's just like when, you know, postpartum, we talked about it earlier. A lot of these are hormonal imbalances that cause and affect your personality, cause and affect how you see the world. And depending on where you start, especially where you start, and you start messing around with your hormone levels, it can create all kinds of adverse events. And with Cody's perception of the world, his perception of himself, and the fragile nature in which he approaches life in general, then you throw hormones on top of it, it could have catastrophic effects as far as how you see yourself and how you see the world. So, like, some people, you know, if you want to do it, you knock yourself out. Don't do nothing illegal. Don't get yourself arrested for stupid stuff. I've gone to a lot of gyms. I see people do stuff that I know they're on stuff. The ironic part about it is a lot of the people who are doing these crazy, copious amounts of these products don't look amazing. If you're gonna cut your life short, you should look amazing. These people, half of them look normal. I can't tell if you're doing it or not. I know you're doing it because I see all the acne on your back, but you should not be doing this. You know, and like I said, they're doing it wrong. They're doing too much of it. You're
Mhm.
not getting like the medical help that you need because you really should be seeing a damn doctor.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to be like the Rock or the Marvel people, and this will be on
Mhm.
a soapbox, I guess. But you want to be like these folks. The truth of the matter is, Thor, the guy that played Thor, all them guys in Marvel, all them guys these actors who do it. One, they're making millions of dollars. Two, the studio is hooking them up not only with the product, but they're hooking them up with nutritionists,
Right.
trainers, and
Right.
they have them doing doctors. They're getting a
Yeah.
medical looked at by a doctor to monitor their
Mhm.
progress and monitor their vitals. They're getting blood work done, and they're
Mhm.
staying on top of it. They're not getting this stuff at the back parking lot by the garbage dumpster from some dude wearing a pair of like 1980s sweatsuits. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, so it's just don't be crazy. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
my two.
I
But
agree. And he's not like in his 20s either. You know, you really take
no,
care of your body after you've gone over 50. And to like start
right.
dabbling in all that is just not so smart. Mama Squirrel wrote
Yes,
something really funny. She said maybe somebody kissed Cody and their hormones went into his mouth. It's not his fault. He's not taking hormones. Somebody kissed him
right.
and the hormones went into his mouth. That's great.
Yeah. But it wouldn't have to be testosterone, so would it be a guy?
Well,
What
you
did you say,
know,
Mama Squirrel? What did you say, Mama Squirrel?
we always had suspicions of Cody Brown.
Yeah, right. What are we saying on this live? What do we accuse this man of?
Oh goodness.
But yeah, like so. Oh well, we talked about Robin and Cody and all that. Let me just check my notes because I think we went through a lot of it, and I don't want
Yeah.
to. We're already going like 3 hours, but um,
I do want to point out one thing just because it'll
mhm,
come up later on when we do Robin's chapter in 2 weeks. On 131, I guess this is it. I have Janelle says wedding was postponed. Robin has a different. Okay. Okay. So Cody and Robin's courtship coincided with a huge development in our life. So I like,
yeah,
how we kept talking about when, what came first, the show or Robin? It's the chicken and the egg question. The way Janelle presents it is, Cody and Robin's courtship happened to coincide with each other.
right.
Goes on to say that they were looking into the show. The decision wasn't easy. After all, there can be consequences when polygamists go public, but these unfamiliar waters certainly complicated Robin's entry into the family. So these circumstances were here before Robin. She comes right out and says it here in the book before Robin entered the family, and then goes on to say it drew out her courtship with Cody and forced the wedding to be put off for a few extra months. Now, when we get to Robin's chapter, she has a different perspective on the timeline.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Really?
So I remember Robin's perspective, but I had forgotten Janelle said this. And when I read it this time, I was like, oh, I love it when there's a complete contradiction put in print
Right.
where we can go back and see it. But yeah, Robin does not see it as the show put it off because that was the hypothesis that like, oh, we need to film it. Robin kept saying she wanted it in December, but then the sister wives didn't want it in December because that was like too close to Christmas and it would steal their Christmas. And she realized, oh yeah, that wouldn't be very thoughtful. So she was going to have it in January, but then she couldn't have it in January because a couple people had a birthday and there was one anniversary. I mean, you can't have a wedding because two people are having a birthday. Like there's going to be a birthday every month, except they said 11 out of the 12 months there's a birthday. And then she goes on to say, and in February, the same thing. So I love to go back and see how many birthdays and anniversaries are actually in February. So all of a sudden she implies, oh, it was Christmas, it was birthdays, it was anniversaries. We just couldn't get the wedding. And then we got to the point that the show was getting started to air. And so therefore, so she blames it all on events, whereas Janelle here comes right out and says, oh, no. The show was all before really, Robin. And yeah, we consulted
Right.
with Robin. I remember Christine saying the same thing. It's in some interview at some point where they asked, which came first. And she's like, I don't remember all the details of it, but I do know that she was consulted on it before we started shooting to like say, hey, this is going to be a part of our life. So she also confirmed that the show was around prior to any commitment here. But I loved that line when I read it, when she's like, oh, well, this TV show made it so that we had to draw out the courtship because they wanted to film it on the show, because if they filmed it on the show, then it would get paid for, which she does admit to, I think later on, that like, oh, and because it happened to get pushed off,
It just so happens.
we just so happen to fall in the time frame where it's going to be now aired on the show in the first season.
Right. Well, because I think that there's also like there's a point where when things just make sense, I tend to give it a lot more credence.
Yeah,
that makes sense to me, and is also corroborated earlier on, way back when we're talking about Robin and her courtship, and she says that her cousin called her up and said, hey, this family wants to talk to you, and they have a lot of positive, there's a lot of things going on with this family right now, which implies to me that they were talking about the show. The family is involved with they're about to be on TV, and you can get in on this family on the ground floor. So you need to take your ass down here to Utah so that you can get, back down to Lehigh so that you can get hooked up with this family. So it makes complete sense to me that this was part of like the Robin coming into the family coincided with them getting the show. I think, in my suspicion, and again, this is just my suspicion as a fan who watches the show, that it didn't coincide with Robin coming into the show. Didn't coincide with Robin coming into the family. The show caused Robin to come into the family.
Yeah,
it's not, what I mean. It's not correlation. It's causality.
Right.
Like it's what caused her to join the family. Because without the show, I don't think Robin would have. I don't think she would have hauled ass down here and spent so much time trying to get with Cody.
No, she sniffed it out. She did. And then she got her scent out there, according to her mother's instructions.
Right. This is how you reel a man in. And it goes in, like, it actually, because I like the cyclical nature of the conversation, but it actually goes back to one of the first things we talked about with regard to Janelle saying that she likes security as far as being able to work, but she wound up leaving the situation with nothing, whereas Robin seemed to have a lion's share of the assets within the family, even though she wasn't paying for anything. So Robin, it makes sense to me that Robin came in with a plan to be a part of this bigger show because she understood the financial implications of her being a part of the show and his family being a part of the show and her joining the family.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Day Towns, wishing everyone a happy Memorial Day. Special thanks to those who served or with military families.
Absolutely.
All right, Danny. Yeah. I think that's a good spot to end it on, unless you had something else you wanted to say with regard to the chapter. But that's a good point. Like I didn't know Robin tried to backpedal it.
Yeah, she comes with a different perspective.
Which is consistent though, because she's always kind of done that with the.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not my fault. It's something else. You guys misread it.
The only other thing I just want to put in here, because I just wrote this is funny, ending at the very end of Janelle's chapter. And she says, naturally, there's room for complacency. Well, they just kind of talk about the relationship in general. And she's talking about sister wives in general. And she said, naturally, there are bad days. There are times when I've said to my sister wives in the middle of a fight, I would never be friends with you ever. If it were possible, I'd hate you.
Right.
And I just remember laughing out loud when I read it. I could see Janelle. Like, first of all, I can't even say her, but as opposed to, I'd kill you, or she's like, if it were possible, I'd hate you. It sounds like something that like a 5-year-old kid would say.
Yeah, that's what
You're making me so angry right now that if it were possible, I'd hate you, but I can't.
Right. It's against the rules.
I just can't do it.
But
Yeah.
I would. I would so hate you.
It's such a sweet way for Janelle to end the chapter.
Right. But I think that also shows like a lot of the fragility in nature of their relationships, because the family wasn't as stable as or as sturdy as they try to portray, especially in the earlier seasons when they were trying to roll it out. That this is amazing and sister wifedom is what I want with my life, and it's a calling and all that other good stuff. Like even they have to acknowledge in the first few years it was hard, and even Robin coming into the family, it was hard. And looking back on it, it never got better.
Right.
Like, it never got better. So
yeah.
But
Sad but true.
Yeah. So did you have anything coming up this week? Anything we should be looking forward to?
Well, there will be probably tomorrow a video that I will drop that will talk about Robin and her history of, is she a polygamist? Is she not a polygamist? Did she live polygamy? Did she not live polygamy? And her claiming to be the forefront knowledge of it all by sharing, just being Robin. So that's coming out tomorrow. And then Thursday, we'll be doing our live at 7 p.m. Other than that, Seeking Sister Wives, if you're interested in that, it's on Reality TV Breakdown. So go to Reality TV Breakdown and catch my Sister Wife reviews there. Seeking Sister Wives reviews. These shows are too similar. Seeking Sister Wife, singular. Sister Wives, plural. I screw it up all the time.
Right. That's right. I alternate between the two. Well, I have tomorrow we will be doing, despite the holiday, we will Amanda and Sarah and I will be doing our sister lives.
Oh, good.
Then Tuesday I will be doing the My Take talk show. Then at some point this week, I have a plan. I wanted to do this for a little bit, and I'm going to give you guys the scoop. You guys are getting the first thing. I have been playing with the idea of doing My Take comedy club. So I'm going to do like I'll put together like a little thing, or I'll do a set, what they call a set of jokes, probably talking about like issue of, I think the first one is going to be on Seeking Sister Wives, but it's just going to be like more comedy effect. So
how fun, James. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. And then I'll have the companion videos will probably get dropped this week as well. So I have a lot of stuff that I plan on doing. So just make sure you check in to see what's happening. All right.
Awesome.
All right.
It was good to see everybody.
So, yeah. Happy Memorial Day. Definitely. And once again, thank you so much to the to the folks who are doing our moderation. I got Rochelle J, Lizzie B. I saw there was
we had Lynn Skinner, I believe it was.
Lynn
I have
Skinner,
two Lyns that are and then Lynn Vaughn. They were both here.
Okay.
Today.
Yep. I saw them earlier. I want to make sure I just hollered them out. Holla! So I want to make sure I gave you guys a shout out. So thank you guys so much for moderating. And thank you guys for being so cool in the chat. Had a lot of fun trying to read through some of the comments and stuff. I got to figure out a better system so I can put more stuff up. But make sure you have a safe holiday. Make sure you take care of yourself. And remember, even though you're having a good time, and there's going to be a lot of, traffic safety takes no holiday, people. So be safe out there. Watch for folks who are weaving on the road. Keep yourself safe and keep your family safe.
Absolutely.
And have a good time so we can keep the party going. All right.
That's right.
And big salute to the families of military folks, military people. Pop one on for you. Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us, guys. For James and for...
I'm Jenny.
Jenny. I know your name, girl. I want you to say it.
I thought I'd do it too. You go, I'm James, and I'll go, I'm Jenny.
There you go. So you got it. That's our take. This has been our take to reality. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. And I'm out.
Bye.